Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers! Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the show where we wax poetic about the movies we see on a month-to-month basis. It's time to crack open our...
Movie
Memoirs! All right, Dragon. I don't know about you, man. This was a rough month for me. This was a rough month. We'll just get into it. I will say my catch-up warranted some good stuff, for sure. In theaters, though, well, we'll break it down. But first, let's get to the news. Of course, we like to start with the in memoriam stuff, and we have a very important in memoriam to get to. We probably could have done this as a standalone thing. I just feel like we've already talked about the man a lot in other podcasts. I don't really feel like there's a lot to add for a standalone, but of course we have to acknowledge the passing of the late great Richard Sherman.
Yeah, the chipper of the Sherman brothers. It is a sad loss indeed. Of course, we really all got to know him, and we covered it extensively with the boys, the Sherman Brothers story documentary. That was really a great foray into the man.
Mm. Yeah, always optimistic. Always, I mean, there's a couple things I really know him from. The big thing I think is the Feed the Bird story. I think that's kind of like a big takeaway. Like that's going to be like part of his legacy is the Feed the Bird story.
Mm-hmm.
I also
he was very involved.
I also remember in the Mary Poppins podcast, in the Mary Poppins commentary that he did way back in the day. And I think I brought this up when we talked about the boys. There's a moment like right at the start of the commentary where he's like, and Dick, well, or I'm sorry, not Dick. He's Dick.
Yes. Tiki. So again, it's like DG.
Oh God! All right, Robert. Well, Robert's not around, and he wasn't dead, but he wasn't around, and that was like, oh wow, I wonder what happened there. Then we saw the boys. We got our answer to what
mystery
happened
solved.
So that was kind of like a full circle thing. But I mean, just generally speaking, dude was the man who made the soundtrack to our childhood. I will never not love It's a Small World as an attraction. I'm sorry. But yeah.
But I mean, yeah, he was he was a goodwill ambassador too. I mean, he was involved heavily in things. Like every time they were doing something like, hey, we're doing the new Jungle Book. It's like, hey, we brought him back. Or, hey, we're, Mary Poppins Returns. Obviously, we're going to get Sherman involved here. It's like, he was popping up a lot.
Yeah, the Winnie the Pooh 2011 as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. So he stuck around well past when he was involved in stuff directly. It was like he was actively sought out. Like, hey, we want the magic man on this.
Uh-huh.
That was Mr. Sherman.
So yeah, I think his contributions will be missed, but also just his presence will.
I mean, that's the weird thing. It's more of like just we really got to know the Sherman brothers through that documentary. So it's less. A part of it in a weird way is it's less the music. Well, it's key obviously, but it's like less the music. It's more like the story of brothers. It's just kind of like that kind of broke our hearts in all the right places.
For me, these like Disney legacy deaths, I think they hit me extra hard because like, in some universe, I probably could have met them through my time at the museum. In most instances, it's just the cards just did not align for that to happen in most cases. But yeah, obviously he will be missed. All right, before we get into our list, Dragon, I do want to shout out Little Blue here. He says Bernard Hill. Now, Bernard Hill, he was King Theoden in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'm sure he's done other stuff. I'm pretty sure he was a very well-respected English actor before then. Maybe more of a stage guy from what I know. But I will say that King Theoden, he really brought that character to life in a very vivid and memorable way. I think most Lord of the Rings fans agree that he is one of the characters that is elevated from the book to the screen. I think his character is even more captivating on screen than he is in the books, and I think that's mostly due to Theoden's performance, Bernard Hill's performance. So yeah, he will absolutely be missed as well. All right, Dragon, what's the next death on our list here?
This one, let me say this: all four deaths that we're about to talk about, all very painful and very familiar. And this really was a painful month of consecutive loss. And Dabney Coleman was a huge one. Dabney Coleman, this one hurt. Of course, Dabney Coleman built a career on That Girl, then popping up in films like 9 to 5, Tootsie, and even in like kind of the smaller things like this. Like the only time I've really like in my youth that I remember seeing the man was like he was in the Inspector Gadget. He played Chief Quimby. Not a big role, but that's where you saw what the man looked like. But you're probably wondering, why is it a big deal to see what the man looked like? Because you and I, and for a lot of people, know him for one singular role.
Yep.
Principal Prickly.
Yeah, he will always be prickly to me. I mean, just not. It's not even a question. I'm sure the other stuff he did over his career was great. I'm sure a lot of people recognize him from that stuff. But yeah, to our generation, man, the prickly shadow looms large over this man.
Debatably the most. Look, I'm gonna go as far as this. Debatably the best character in Recess. I always loved Principal Prickly.
It's him or Finster, man. It's those are in like an epic rap battle for the best Recess character.
But still, so Principal Prickly, what Dabney Coleman did, he took this character that could be just kind of like a joke character, like we have the authority figure, he's got kind of a fun design, and he's just going to be kind of grousing about. But the fact is, we gave this guy personality, and we gave just kind of one of the great actors, one of the great comedy actors as well, just this role, and he, I love that Recess always had this ability to elicit like actual, actual heart underneath, just kind of like the fun. There actually had like these
absolutely.
moments of, and I feel Principal Prickly had these moments down. Of course, the best performance, the swan song of Dabney Coleman and the Principal Prickly character, like the go-to, everyone and their mother will tell you about. It's his performance in Recess, Schools Out.
Is it fair to say that is Dabney Coleman's Citizen Kane?
I mean, sure.
I'm joking, but not really.
I mean, it's his finest hour, but for sure. I mean, of course, the big moment, the big speech where he kind of like tells TJ to shut up, and he basically lays out like he cares about summer vacation too, and that's the performance. That and the two big scenes. He's great throughout the entire film, even when he's just trying to golf. That's where you get kind of like the wonderful curmudgeon. But just the fact that we have the big scene, and then we also have like essentially a scene that now I think has even more weight than it once did. The goodbye to TJ right before they kind of part ways.
That has a lot of weight to it. Yeah, it's always had weight to it, but especially now.
The fact that we go off on such a great note with the whole he's wearing the medallion, he's like he feels really good about life for a change, which we so rarely ever saw from Principal Prickly. And I mean, there are other moments too in the series itself that always stuck with me at Prickly. Again, I think in large part, like you see Schools Out, then you go back and you rewatch or you remember. It's like, man, those moments, Prickly really, it wasn't just like something like, hey, we're going to develop them suddenly. Like, no, it was there. We just let it flourish in a big cinematic way. Like we had, my favorite example is always the Senor Fusion trivia contest. The thing where there was this great episode where TJ wants to take all the class to see the big Senor Fusion movie. When it premieres, like take the whole school on a field trip, and basically Principal Prickly is like the one naysayer, and he basically challenges them into a contest. We reveal Principal Prickly is a huge comics geek, and it's just amazing, that was always like you had like something like that, then you have like him turning into like a kid because of hypnosis, which is kind of a fun episode, but I mean also Principal for a Day, which is even worked into the Christmas kind of compilation thing technically, just there are a lot of good examples, and just he's such a wonderful character, and he made an indelible mark. And I think in large part he's the reason we're never going to forget that show. So he will always have a great debt of thanks, Dabney Coleman. Just it gutted me to hear that he passed. I mean, we have so many greats passing now. It's a thing where they're getting up there, and you think, nah, they'll never go. And so at some point, it's just there's only so long you can hold on for.
Little Blue saying, let's not forget Dabney Coleman's appearance in Muppets Takes Manhattan as
Yep.
well. Just to shout out a couple other comments here. We got Claude in the comments. I just want to acknowledge him. He's saying, not Principal Prickly. Claude, it's always great to see you pop up. I still feel absolutely terrible for unintentionally blocking you from the chat. That was a genuinely traumatizing moment for me. So, yeah, always good to see you pop up, man. Richard's Victims is also here. He's saying he can't stay, but I need you to see my pain. I'm rewatching season 2 of Stranger Things, and I'm on that weird episode with the gang. I'm assuming, Richard Victims, I'm assuming you're talking about that weird episode that was like going to be the spinoff where they're like, there's the other experiments besides 11, that gang episode.
Basically, it's the failed Lilo and Stitch spinoff for Stranger Things.
Yeah, because that episode was terrible. Probably the worst episode of the whole series. I thoroughly agree with you.
In retrospect, the Duffer Brothers are maybe regretting the number choice. Like, why do we have to make it so high? Why do we have to say 11? So now we have to address all the other experiments.
Yeah. Well, we'll get Stranger Things sooner rather than later when the kids are all in their 40s. We'll see.
Anyway, regardless, also one of the Kogias anime fans, I'm one of the few defenders of the 1999 Inspector Gadget show.
So is Dragon.
Yeah, that's the thing. So am I, sir. So am I.
All right. And then, okay, Dragon, we don't have this on the list, but Little Blue said Susan... I hope I'm pronouncing this right.
Oh, Susan Bacalini, yes.
Yeah, Bacalini.
Right. Oh, God, I meant to put her on the list. Darn it.
Okay. Well, thank Little Blue, Dragon.
Thank you, Little Blue.
All right.
Because I actually was in, I can't really say I met her, but I was in the same building as her once. She was
for the HorrorCon.
Well, actually, I think she was there and the Baltimore Comic Con. Basically, the Baltimore Comic Con. That's where I was in the same. I believe that's anyway. But yeah, of course, the first victim of Jaws also made a comeback in everyone's favorite 1941.
That to me is honestly her most memorable appearance. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, obviously the Jaws one is more iconic. But it's a hell of a way to start, man.
Yeah, well, it's like, hey, what's the one thing you wanted to see in Jaws that we weren't quite able to see? And, well, she gave it to us.
Right. Yeah, Claude, Dragon actually brought up that Recess revival to me. I looked into it. Honestly, man, I'm just so...
You know why I showed that to you.
What?
Well, did you see the whole, of all the production, or did you see the whole Better Call Spinelli thing?
I think I missed that, but that sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing. They did like they parodied Better Call Saul with Better Call Spinelli. She became a lawyer, and they gave her the exact. It was as a proof of concept thing, but it was like
Little Blue. We are going to get to these people, man. Like I'm kind of micromanaging right now, bro. We are going to get to Spurlock. All right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Honestly, though, for me, like that, even though that concept sounds amazing, I do think that I'm just kind of like very cynical about reboots in general, especially coming out of Disney. So, the series already kind of left on, it already kind of petered out with those weird straight to video movies. So let's not diminish the legacy any further.
Well, the nice thing is that they did have like a nod to Principal Prickly, like on the background, like presumably he might have passed, so they put like this nice placard on like the building for him, which is nice.
No, I don't mind that. I mean, I assume that's what they do, but like I said, it's just, I don't know. If it's mid, I don't want it to be mid, Dragon.
Well, I'm not saying they have to make it. I'm just saying it was kind of a neat little concept they worked up there, especially the whole Better Call Spinelli art.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. So yeah, Little Blue, I'm sorry, I don't mean to like give you attitude, bud, but you're like, we are going to go over all the names you sent me, and I don't know why you're like calling it out in the comments here. So, all right. So speaking of which, well, I guess we'll go over it since he brought it up, although it was on our list anyways. Morgan Spurlock. This, not necessarily the most like sentimental one. I mean, I'm sure to some extent he was a nice guy. I also, know that some of Super Size Me was a little bit exaggerated, and there's a little bit of that. Like, as a documentarian, I don't necessarily think he was the best source, but definitely an engaging on-camera presence.
I mean, again, this month's filled with so many nostalgic deaths, and like it or not, I mean, Morgan Spurlock, very nostalgic in that this is like the school-approved documentary. This is like where I saw Super Size.
I mean, this is literally the thing that killed the Super Size.
Yeah, which, I mean, I do look back longingly towards, I won't lie to you, because I remember that as a kid. We had the Super Size. And,
oh, yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's just more of like a variety. It's just nice to have options, and we lost the Super Size. Because it was like, oh, hey, a documentary on McDonald's, and you watch, it's like, oh man, it killed the Super Size.
I think my favorite element of that movie is his whole rule of like he doesn't supersize unless they ask him to supersize.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. That's the thing. Obviously, at the time, there were some conflicting emotions, but you look back and I was like, okay, there's something really kind of clever there. But that's the thing. So the fact
now
is,
someone should make a documentary about how McDonald's is supersizing their prices.
They should.
Just saying, it's kind of out of control, even compared to other fast food places.
Okay, the point being, the Super Size Me documentary definitely has like a nostalgic kind of like foothold in terms of like my obsession with documentaries, and that was very much an early one that very much made a splash. And you kind of saw like someone can make a movie talking about something you may like or have like a familiarity with, and then it'll be like a ripple effect in real life to the documentary. That's kind of interesting, So it's kind of like a starting point there, and and after that, Morgan Spurlock became like the king of the documentary for a while. He had
for a while, and I don't necessarily think that was a position that he really earned, to tell you the truth. I'm a little cynical about that, but it is what it is. I mean, again, I don't want to besmirch his name or anything. No. Again, I think his strength is just being a really compelling on-camera person. I don't necessarily think his documentary work is like the most cutting edge.
I think he had 3 that stuck along with Super Size Me. And again, Super Size Me in terms of, I'm not saying we haven't surpassed Super Size Me, which clearly we have. I'm just saying that stuff like, Freakonomics was like another good school documentary. The whole like kind of a layman's economics, how it works. The big one, the other 2 that really kind of I was impressed by was The Greatest Movie Ever Sold was a great kind of like little like foray into here's the behind the scenes of how you basically market a movie in kind of a fun way. Like, we're going to market this movie all about marketing a movie.
Uh-huh.
Kind of a head trip there. But the last thing I saw him do that really kind of like I was impressed by was the Comic-Con, A Fan's New Hope, which is basically, that was the most ambitious he got with the documentary format, where basically he had these through lines of people in their Comic-Con experiences, which essentially is kind of the building blocks of what we kind of do with the trip report sometimes.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah, I don't know, that kind of I thought that really worked, and it was like a thing to my knowledge, he only really did once, and it was something that was really neat. Anyway, I was shocked that he had passed from cancer. That's the thing. I didn't know he was sick or anything. He's so young too, comparatively, like 56.
Like what? Like in his 50s?
Yeah, I think it was like 56 or something.
Yeah, that's
like
crazy.
Mid 50s. I mean, I think it was like maybe prostate cancer or
something. Dragon, when I'm closer to my 50s than I am to being a teenager, do you realize how scary of a thought that is for me? It's guttural terror, man.
Well, Tiki, you're only as old as you feel.
I feel pretty old. All right.
Anyway, so
now speaking of a man who was quite old but very much young at heart, let's talk Roger Corman.
Yes, the great Roger Corman.
Yeah, this guy, honestly, Dragon, I haven't checked out a ton of his movies. I know him mostly through The Legacy. I watched the Your Movie Sucks interview with him, which was pretty enlightening. So I mostly know this guy for like as a pop culture figure, and also kind of being one of the godfathers of low budget cinema.
Yeah, I mean, Corman, I was familiar with Corman because, again, he's the man who built the business in low budget, clearly the whole Godfather component. The King of Cult was one of his nicknames, which I thought was really, really nice. I will always know him because of his involvement in the Fantastic Four.
Of course.
But that's the thing, like, Corman would keep popping up, through pop culture, in the conversation on pop culture. And, like, everyone who worked with him. Basically, everyone in the industry worked with him or for him by some connection at least once in their career. And he was like still giving interviews to the end. That Marvel thing I told you about, Corman did interviews for. The Icons and Marvel thing. That's what I'm saying. This man, even into his late 90s, he's still he's still talking about this stuff. Like man passed at 98.
I mean, that's the thing, man. I feel like Corman was almost like as far as just being like a storyteller in the industry, he was almost like the proto Kevin Smith. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, in many respects, yeah. It was kind of like a weird fusion of Kevin Smith and Stan Lee to some degree, and in terms of just being this man who again, he knew, like some people might call him a schlockmeister, but more so he's like an exploitation director. It's the fact that this guy, he made it better than anyone else, and he turned out like the most movies that a man has ever made. And
frankly, in Hollywood's current climate, we could learn a thing or two from him, right?
And the thing is, he never lost any money on any movie that he ever did in his long span career because he didn't spend through the roof on it. Because that's the thing. The man was a consummate filmmaker. Again, he didn't shoot for the stars, but he comfortably made movies from my understanding, all the way to the end. And he got everyone their start.
Ron Aries is going to cost like $600 million.
So it's so weird that you may not know the movies, but you know the people in the movies, and you know his name. Like that's the thing. Like that's.
Did he do Killer Tomatoes?
I mean, I know he did like Piranha.
I know he did Toxic Avenger. I think that's one of his more well-known ones.
Well, I shouldn't. No. That's Trauma. You're thinking.
Oh my God! Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. That is Trauma. Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
When I said Piranha, I meant. I know he did things that were like I forget if he had involvement in Piranha with Joe Dante.
Trauma feels like he would be involved in that, but yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There is no Trauma without Roger.
Exactly.
Corman.
Exactly. Yeah.
The point is, like, technically, we don't have Jaws without Corman, because Corman basically he made the movies that would give Jaws a chance. So that's the thing. Corman is hugely important to the business, and it's the fact that he was like literally by definition a living legend in life. That's what this guy was. He was like an embodiment of film. Like everyone like owed him a huge debt of gratitude. Like it's impressive. We'll talk more about Corman a little later, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Make sure there's no more comments here. Kogia says Roger Corman's unintentionally responsible for the creation of Doctor Strange because I believe that Steve Ditko based Strange off of Vincent Price's character from the Corman film The Raven. Do you know anything about that?
I mean, that sounds right. I didn't know what the exact film was. I know there's a little bit of Vincent Price in Doctor Strange, hence the mustache, but I did not know it was like The Raven. But yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's move on from the deaths. Fortunately, were the only truly bits of bad news that we had this month.
Yeah.
I mean, Dragon, I will say, I know you don't like to talk about it. The box office has been pretty fucking dire, man. It really has been. It is not a good situation, bro.
The box office is never going to be good. What's the point? It's never going to improve.
Well, I'm just saying that I do genuinely think that how bad the box office this month is kind of newsworthy. But we'll
the nation's in debt. What else is new? Come on, man.
Okay, so Billy Zane, Brando, yeah.
Yes, so there's this movie. There's a biopic in the works, Waltzing with Brando, which kind of came out of nowhere impressively. And apparently it's about the later years of Marlon Brando. They have Billy Zane playing him, and it looks rather promising.
I gotta say, I'm a little skeptical about it just based on the fact that the director is... he's only directed a few things. He's mostly a music video director, and he hasn't directed a feature film in like 20 years. Like, that's a little shaky, Dragon. That's a little... I don't know. I take a lot of stock in directors these days, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Billy Zane is certainly an interesting choice. I will say I honestly don't think I've seen him in enough, not even recently, just in general. I don't really know a lot of his catalog outside of like the big ones like Titanic, so... Don't really know how good of a casting choice this is, but I don't know if it's a bad one either. I'm just not that familiar with him.
Okay.
All right. Next up, this one should also go by quick. We already pretty much knew this was happening, but it was confirmed. We have a live-action Spider-Verse show with Nick Cage. Dragon, my only hang-up with this is that, like, I feel like this is the one time where we would actually, like, want an animated show over a live-action show. I don't know how they're going to do the style of the Spider Noir universe in live action. I mean, obviously they'll go the black and white approach. I would hope so, but I don't know, man. I kind of feel like if they would have just done it like a Spider-Verse, but then again, you know, Spider-Verse, the animation that was like a whole thing last year, so maybe that has something to do with it.
I mean, I'm just more impressed. Like, you know, I mean, in retrospect, knowing that, you know, Nick Cage is always hard up for money and he'll say yes to anything, I guess it wasn't really a big surprise. Like, in theory, if they really wanted Nick Cage, they could just directly, hey, Nick Cage, do you want to do this? We'll give you money. He says, yes, I'll do that.
Money, you say? Oh, God, that was a terrible Nick Cage.
Yeah, that was awful.
That was really bad. I'm sorry.
Regardless, but yeah. So I mean, I think it's really cool that if we're gonna force these Spider-Man products, one, at least it's actually Spider-Man instead of like someone who's like tangentially involved with Spider-Man.
Yeah, for sure.
I was saying, if we're gonna do an alternate Spider-Man, like, hey,
The Dragon, Kraven the Hunter is the ultimate holiday movie. I couldn't get through that with a straight face. I literally couldn't get through that with a straight face.
I want a bumper sticker movement for this. I just want Amy Pascal doesn't care about Spider-Man.
Amen, brother.
She just does. She's just giving up. She's just throwing sandwiches at people and just saying,
she's like actively trying to make the movies flop at this point. August would have been a perfectly reasonable time to release a movie like Kraven.
Or better yet, maybe saying, you know what, we changed our mind. We're not gonna release this Kraven movie like all the other movie studios.
Well, I mean, Dragon, I'm very curious about your thoughts on the Fall Guy. We'll get there when we get there, but I think Aaron Taylor Johnson is officially cursed for me. That dude actively makes movies worse.
It's still the point of, like, again, without a Spider-Man, what's Kraven doing?
I know. Yeah.
Okay, he's got to hunt.
Well, Dragon, he was researching spiders in the Amazon right before he died. All right.
Anyway, the point is, so Nick Cage as Spider-Man Noir. I mean, I like Spider-Man Noir. I like Nick Cage as Spider-Man Noir. This is a win. It's an unconventional way of getting Spider-Man, but hey, I'll take it. Let's see how it goes. Why not?
Yeah.
We're doing crap otherwise with Spider-Man. Let's do something potentially good.
All right, next up we have Wake Up Dead Man. It's the third Knives Out movie. I must say, I do really like the title. I have a theory for how it connects to Glass Onion, but it's so stupid and niche, and only the diehard Beatles fans will understand it. So, Dragon, I'm not even going to run that theory past you. You're welcome. Oh, God, Claude, I will give my thoughts on the Wicked trailer. Dragon does not care, but I will give my thoughts on it once we get there. I don't like it, but we'll get there. So yeah, any thoughts on that, Dragon? Any thoughts on the?
Well, every time I see the title, I just keep thinking of like LeBlanc just saying, Benoit Blanc saying, "Wake up, dead man." I just keep thinking every time that's kind of the fun thing about the title. But do we know anything really about the premise? Like,
no, we know a couple. Now I know Renner's in it. Do you know any? Because I know a couple other people were announced. Do you know those names?
Well, I've heard Renner. That's the only one I've heard.
Okay, if anyone in the comments knows if anyone else has been cast, let us know. Renner, I will say, I like Renner. I don't necessarily think he's like that kind of like eclectic jump out of the screen kind of personality that would usually fit into one of these movies.
Well, we don't know how big a role he's going to have. We don't know if he's going to be like the guy or, you know.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. We'll see.
We don't know.
I'm just saying Renner's acting is usually more subdued than what these movies call for, but you never know. People can surprise us.
Yeah, he could be the dead guy for all we know.
Right.
He could be the dead man, you know, like the sun, you know, wake up, dead man. Maybe he's dead man.
Yes, I will get to it. I'm still looking forward to Wicked. I think it was a shit trailer, but we'll get there. Okay, anything else on that, Dragon?
No.
Okay. Fantastic forecasting. Why don't you take the lead on this?
All right, so we had, of course, the Fantastic Four movie. In addition to the casting, we've been seeing some great concept art. Like, they've been doing this thing ever since they announced the cast of like this really cool looking retro comic art that is actually like what the end product's going to look like. So they've revealed, if it's to be taken literally, which I'm thinking based on the art style and based on these suits that came out, it is what it's supposed to look like. They showed a peek at what the suit looks like, and it's really neat. Like they gave him the white gloves and everything. It looks pretty cool if that's what they're going to put in live action. But in addition to this, they revealed this kind of more casting, and a few have gotten roles. Well, more like one has gotten a singularly announced role. The others are highly speculated. We have the Galactus folks. We have the Silver Surfer. Well, it's a little up in the air how many Silver Surfers we might be getting, but we are getting Galactus. The man who is giving the Silver Surfer orders is being played by Ralph Ineson.
Yeah, and Dragon, you might not know much about this dude, but man, from his performance in The Witch, this guy, he commands authority. I mean, that is the best way I can describe him, Dragon. This man commands authority. And I am really stoked to see him. I honestly think this might be one of the singular best casting decisions the MCU has made in quite a while. I'm genuinely pretty stoked for this casting.
I mean, I listened to like a snippet of his voice, and it sounds like, I guess I'm not going to say like I'm doubting it or anything, but it's like not. I just never would have thought to cast this guy as Galactus. But
he's unconventional. He's unconventional for sure. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, hearing the voice, like, well, I could buy that as the sound.
I also don't want him to just get sucked into the studio system and stop making independent movies. It always worries me when an actor like him gets sucked into the MCU. So we'll see. Galactus certainly has the potential to be in more than one movie. I don't want him to be like a franchise guy all of a sudden.
Well, regardless, the thing with Galactus is like the only hesitation I have is like when I think Galactus, and I think a lot of people think of Galactus, you're thinking like Tony J. Like Tony J is like that's the voice of Galactus, and we don't really. I'm not saying like the definitive voice, but I'm saying that's kind of the voice you want.
It's Tony J is a hard act to follow, my guy.
That I know, that's my point. That's what I'm saying is that you're kind of looking for the next Tony J, and you kind of had that maybe like Lawrence Fishburne. We made him the Silver Surfer, and that was the problem there. It's like it's kind of hard to,
Yeah.
But I mean, this guy's got his work cut out for him. But I mean, it could work. It could work. So we had 3 other names announced, and we don't know who they're playing yet officially, but I think some people have speculated. So we have John Malkovich. That's pretty big. We have John Malkovich, we have Paul Walter Hauser, and we have Natasha Leone.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not. You don't have to know. I'm just saying, it might be a lion or Leone, whatever. Uh-huh. We have those 3 names. So some people, I think it's. I have a prediction for Paul Walter Hauser.
Okay.
Mole Man.
Possibly.
I think it'd be pretty solid.
You're gonna frickin' hate me, Dragon, but the name is like literally on the tip of my tongue. The Mailman.
I knew you were gonna forget his name.
I'm so sorry. I feel bad.
Stan Lee played this man.
I know he did, Dragon. That's honestly part of why I'm having a hard time remembering.
Willie Lumpkin.
Willie Lumpkin. All right, yeah. If I were to cast Paul Walter Hauser as anyone, it would probably be that character.
It's funny you mention that. See, here's the thing. So for John Malkovich, I had 2 roles in mind. Okay, one, I think the more likely of the 2. And mind you could always play someone else. It'd be amazing if he's playing Dr. Doom. I'll say that. I'd be very impressed if he played Dr. Doom. But again, I think they're going to go younger.
Paul Walter Hauser, Dr. Doom, yo. Just kidding.
No, but seriously. But legitimately, though. John Malkovich, Dr. Doom. What do you think of that?
John Malkovich doesn't do as much for me as he does for other people, but I could see it. My hang up with it is that I just feel like Malkovich isn't really a guy who I could see wanting to play ball for like a major franchise commitment, which I think Dr. Doom, no matter what you do with him in this movie, he is going to be a fixture in the MCU moving forward if they do him right. Mm-hmm. So that would be my one hang up with it.
Right. Well, I think the more likely, so that's Dr. Doom's like one just kind of came to me like, he could actually be really solid, but the Puppet, a lot of people have been predicting Puppet Master, which I mean, I could see it. I could see him as Puppet Master.
I could honestly kind of see him as Silver Surfer. I mean, I know the boats kind of sailed on that one, but
well, they not necessarily. Again, we've that is essentially Norrin Rad's wife. We have not seen,
right,
you know.
right.
I'm gonna say we don't know how literal that announcement was.
So I don't know. I could genuinely like if I were to cast Malkovich as anyone, I do think he has that air of like unpredictability and sort of mystique around him that Silver Surfer could be pulled off well with him.
Now, again, if they want something really achievable and really simple for Malkovich, though, I mean, it'd be hysterical if they got an actor John Malkovich's caliber to play Willie Lumpkin, the mailman.
That would be kind of funny.
So that's the thing. So I mean, as a gag, they could potentially
get Paul Walter Hauser as Dr. Doom.
Well, I don't know about that. Okay, so the other one, so Natasha Lyonne, I mean, she's a
what if Paul Walter Hauser just put his all into it and he was like genuinely scary?
I mean,
the man does have talent, Dragon.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways.
Okay, so for Natasha Lyonne, she's got red hair. She's a lot of people I think made the connection she could be Alicia Masters, which I think that's pretty. Especially if we're gonna do a movie Silver Surfer, I think it's gonna be Alicia Masters.
I think that's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Now they're probably gonna know the big question is you have a bit of a love triangle with Alicia, and so Silver Surfer likes her, and so does the Thing. So. I don't know. But then again, our direction we're going in, I don't know.
All right. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. So for trailers, Dragon, I know you do not care about Wicked, but guys, the Wicked trailer literally gave away everything. That's my problem with this trailer. It's not a trailer. It's a 3-minute montage of the entire first act of the show, which is literally the entire first movie. There is absolutely nothing that audiences who have seen this trailer are going to be surprised by. They even spoil the fucking twist villain. Frankly, it's one of the worst trailers I've seen in a long time. Now, I will say, like, visually, I think I'm pretty sold on it. I think it looks okay. And I'm honestly more on board with Ariana Grande as Glinda than other people are, just because I feel like Glinda is kind of that airy, sort of dumb airhead personality, and I feel like Grande is going to embody that pretty well. I don't know what you people want from that character, but yeah, man, the movie with the trailer was made for people who've already seen the musical. I mean, yeah, Claude, probably you're right, but still at the same time, like, I would think that this movie would be trying to go for like the Frozen crowd who, like probably really likes Let It Go, but might not know where Let It Go came from. I thought it was good, and besides, everyone knows. It's like the Broadway show. Yeah, it's the Broadway show, but Broadway is not the most popular art form, guys. Not everyone knows how the show plays out. That's all I'm saying. So, I mean, for a long time, I just knew the show for the musical, or I'm sorry, for the soundtrack, and I just knew the show for the soundtrack, and the soundtrack doesn't even have important plot beats like that twist villain reveal, for example. So yeah, like, I don't know, man. It's far like, again, it's just like plot point by plot point. Like, yep, this is certainly what the movie is going to be. I hate to say it, but I feel like I don't even really need to see the movie anymore. I still will, but I feel like I don't need to. All right, Dragon. So let's get to the trailers that you have listed here. We'll start with Beetlejuice. I'm of two minds about this. I do think that the trailer leans a little too heavily into callbacks, but it is nice to see that there's at least some practical stuff at play. And Dragon, my attitude with this movie is very much the same attitude that I had with Jurassic World Dominion, where with Jurassic World Dominion, my attitude was like, you know what? They're bringing Grant Sattler and Malcolm back. As long as they do some meaningful stuff with those characters, I'm pretty good with how stupid the rest of the movie is. The rest of the movie was very stupid, but those three characters did get some genuinely good screen time in that movie together, unlike the Star Wars sequels. So yeah, My attitude going into Beetlejuice is very similar. I just want to see a good Michael Keaton performance. That's it. If Michael Keaton seems like he's sleepwalking through it, I'm going to be disappointed. If he's given it his all, I'm going to like it. That's pretty much where my enthusiasm and excitement for this movie kind of lives and dies, is on that Keaton performance.
All right. So I really doubt he's going to sleepwalk through this, Tiki. I think Keaton's been waiting to play Beetlejuice for a while. I think I think he has fun with the role, and I think he's going to have a good time with it. But my instincts, my optimism here is making me hope that Burton's found his way with this. It's that because we do see a lot of practical effects, it does make me think Burton's really going to actually give it a solid try on this go around. It's like to go back to Beetlejuice. It's a big deal, and it really feels like he's going to put something into it. Now that said, I do have one reservation. There's one thing that does worry me. I can already sense from the trailer what the weak point of the movie might be. I believe it's Monica Bellucci. Yeah, her. So Monica. Basically, it seems like our in quotes villain plot might be the iffy part of this movie because we have.
I agree.
Now I love. We have Willem Dafoe in this. Willem Dafoe looks pretty cool. And like him yelling Beetlejuice is pretty cool. That's great. But still, it's like this Monica Bellucci character is like, oh man, like so they're going after Beetlejuice. I can sense like a plot that that might be like, okay, we're stuck. We've strung together a plot of some kind, so we can really just do stuff with Beetlejuice.
Well, the way I took the thing where she's going after Beetlejuice and Red Letter Media, I don't know if you saw their video on it, but I kind of agree with them that they're basically like saying it's the ex-wife that Beetlejuice was talking about in that one line that was like a singular joke in the first movie.
I didn't think about it. That's a good point. Yeah, they might.
I hope it's not that though, because it's like I feel like that's kind of what I'm talking about when it comes to like I don't want this movie to just be Member Berries Dragon. I really don't want that for this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to reserve judgment on the Member Berries thing. Okay, if it's good, if it's good, and it's like Burton just not like it feels like Burton has made movies checked out before. Like it just feels like it's like he's made movies that don't. He's made a lot of remakes that don't need to be remade, and this is a sequel though, which he hasn't really done. And since Batman Returns.
Yeah, Batman Returns was pretty much his only sequel from what I remember.
And even that's more of like he didn't even want to do Returns. The only reason he did Returns is that he wanted to make a full-on Tim Burton movie that happens to feature Batman. That's the whole reason. That's what you get from that. So I don't. This seems like I think he's like feels challenged and he wants to get into it. So I'm feeling hopeful for that. I'm just worried about what our main plot is. But otherwise, I'm thinking it looks good, and even if it's somewhat like leaning on nostalgia, it's like it's been a while seeing these guys back, and it's giving Keaton an excuse to be Beetlejuice. I think it's going to be very telling that let's just call it a safe bet. We're going to get more than 17 minutes of Keaton in this movie.
I would hope so.
Yeah. So, but again, that could make or break it though, because that's the thing. We are missing kind of like the heart of Beetlejuice was not necessarily Keaton. It was like you felt for those poor the Maitlands, and the Maitlands are definitely not in this movie.
Yes, but I mean, let's be fair here. One half of the Maitlands can go rot in hell.
Okay.
For reasons unrelated to the first movie, but still.
T, I think you might have you're talking about the Dietz. Are you talking about Charles Dietz?
Oh, I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I was saying, what do you have against Alec Baldwin? What did he do?
Well, Alec Baldwin's kind of questionable.
All right, fine. The point, in the trailer,
it's kind of funny that both of the lead actors besides Keaton are both kind of problematic. I mean, obviously Jeffrey Jones way more so, but
they by the way, in the trailer they said grandpa, so that's literally they killed him off for those reasons. Regardless, so that's it's like, but the point being though, I have a feeling though, it seems to me that there's no way they could talk Baldwin into it. So poor Gina Davis, who would like to come back, she can't come back, and have it make sense if she wasn't able to come back. That's kind of a shame. But anyway.
All right. Let's see. Claude says, do you think that Alex Brightman, aka Broadway's Beetlejuice, will have a cameo? I think it would be amazing if he performed Deo at some point. Maybe at the funeral. Maybe he could be the funeral director. All right. And I need to catch up with Has Been Hotel because I actually did not know it was a musical, and I listened to a song from the soundtrack, randomly yesterday in the car with some friends, and it was a bop. So yeah, I need to check out Husband Hotel. I've been kind of putting it off. All right. Next up, we have Trap. All right, this is the one I recommended to you, Dragon. The new M. Night movie. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's got kind of a solid premise. The idea that our killer
Most
is
M. Night movies do.
but again, it's a good premise. But in terms of
right.
I don't know. I think it has more places to go in that cabin movie, but I don't know.
Oh God, that cabin movie broke my heart.
The point being, it's a concept that it's great. It's kind of an interesting concept. Like this father is basically revealed to be a killer, and he has basically been ensnared in a concert trap, and he's probably gonna be trying to figure his way out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think M. Night really excels at the bottle movies. Like if you look at something like I guess Knock at the Cabin is not a great example of that, although that's why I was excited for Knock at the Cabin. But if you look at something like Split or even Old, both bottle movies, both some of my favorite M. Night movies. Yeah, so all right, we'll see how it goes. And final trailer we have on the docket is Moana 2. Dragon, are you as cynical about this shit as I am?
I mean, I ain't hopeful for it. I'm not going to say I'm just going to
say total cash grab.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Especially because they're working on a live action remake at the same time.
Yeah, so I'm not I'm not seeing this one. Not until it streams on Disney Plus or something.
Which it will inevitably stream on Disney Plus sooner rather than later. So I'm honestly kind of with you. It might actually be what was the last Walt Disney Animation Studios movie I did see in theaters before this?
Well, did you see Strange World in theaters?
Yes.
Well, there you go. Did you see Wish in theaters?
Yes.
Well, okay. Why? That was the most recent one.
No, I said what's the last one that I didn't see in theaters?
Oh, I thought you said that you did.
No.
I heard did.
No.
Okay,
I think maybe Chicken Little is the last one I didn't see in theaters. So
really?
this might be, and with the thing with Claude, exactly, with Moana 2 going to be a TV show, I honestly feel like them fucking labeling this thing with a Walt Disney Animation Studios banner kind of an insult to the entire legacy of that company. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Not optimistic.
It just the trailers, it doesn't seem to be a lot going on. It doesn't really feel like, and we're back with Moana just to explore the scenery.
The pig's coming along this time.
Yeah, Maui might eat the pig. No, he's not.
That's like the big sell.
Would that be something though? It was like, oh my god,
Literally, the movie is like just a dramatic character study about how Moana and Maui's relationship is affected when Maui eats the pig.
Yeah.
It's just a dramatic, hardcore A24 style character study.
God.
Oh my god. Anyways, yeah.
Let's see the Rock bounce back from that one.
All right, so we're going to move right into May 2024 movies. We've got The Fall Guy. Dragon, this movie was coasting on Ryan Gosling's chemistry and not much else, honestly. I kind of hated this. I think the plot is way too overconvoluted for its own good, for one. And look, Aaron Taylor Johnson here to ruin another movie. Yay. Yeah, I did not respond to this one really at all, honestly. I thought it wasn't terrible, but I thought it was pretty painfully mid.
So I like David Leitch's style, not just in general, like the whole, I believe it's like the 87 North Street production. It's basically it's a John Wick and the Nobody, and it's basically all kind of like a recent kind of like, a Violent Night, kind of a recent kind of like action-y kind of stuff that we've been doing. So I think I think this this movie's in a unique position where technically it's an IP. Technically it's an existing property.
I literally didn't even know that until after I got out of the movie. Yeah.
And everyone's having that, Tiki, and that's what's unique about this. Like, for a change, this is a fun loophole to the whole, like, we just keep remaking everything. Yes, but the property is so bygone. It's just, it's not in your face at all. Like we have it so often. Like, hey,
And
we're
like the trailer for this movie was in your face. I'm just saying, it was like Argyle Dragon. It was the next Argyle for me. Every damn movie that I went to go see, I would see this trailer. Go ahead, though. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so the thing is, it's like I was a little familiar with the Fall Guy, but again, I just thought it was like a pun. I thought they were literally just doing a pun. I didn't know it was like literally supposed to be the Fall Guy.
Right.
And here's what I like about this movie is that it's clearly personal for the director, who was a stunt guy. There's a lot of that in this movie. That's the best aspect of the film. There's a fun, tongue-in-cheek kind of commentary on the industry with kind of a meta way in places. Now, admittedly, while I love all that, and there's a lot going for this movie, and you have the Gosling of it all, and you have just kind of David Leitch's style, and you have like the whole stuntman component. David Leitch does have a problem with his movies, and even though I think I like Bullet Train more than this, but even looking at this and looking at both, and what I like about both those movies, they both share the exact same problem. David Leitch has a plot issue. Like, unless it's Deadpool 2, he has plot issues with his movies. He can direct the heck out of it.
But let's be honest, I like Deadpool 2 quite a bit, but even that plot was a little too overly complicated. They had a little too much stuff going on.
It has like Cable and time travel. That's
what I'm saying, though. That's what I
that's
feel
unavoidable. That's not on David Leitch, though. It's anytime you introduce
right.
Cable, that's always the risk you take with Cable. So I don't know if that's fair to him, but you're right, though. It's the fact that what I'm saying is David Leitch needs a really good script, and so far I think the best script that he's had is I can't really count John Wick because he was co-director on that, but I forget if he directed more John Wick 2 than I forget if he did John Wick 2 or not.
I don't think he did.
That's the thing. So David Leitch kind of had help on the first John Wick, and mainly the main director of that franchise was on for all four of those movies, and he was just kind of co-director on the first one. So I don't know if I can really even say that, but it feels like the best script that he's gotten comparatively has been Deadpool 2, and then the rest of these, it just feels like we have a great set piece, and we have a great cast, and we have chemistry, and there's a lot of fun there, and the action's great. But again, our main plot that's kind of connecting it's the weakest aspect of the film, and basically here in this case it's fully the Aaron Taylor Johnson side of that. That's the weak part of the movie.
Yep. What a surprise!
So that's the thing. So our frame up is iffy. It kind of you get the sense, and same thing with these plots, you get the sense they track on paper, but they just lose their luster when we're bringing them to the screen, and we actually have to connect the fun action set pieces that we have. So because of that, I don't like it as much as Bullet Train. Bullet Train, it's like the plot is less, it's less necessary than it kind of is here, because you have a whole frame up thing here. Like in Bullet Train, it's like only at the very top of the movie and the very end of the movie do we bring.
I'm not gonna lie, I was struggling to keep up with the mechanics of this plot as it was happening.
But you see what I mean, though. It's like Bullet Train. It's like up front and at the end. That's all you need for the plot.
Yeah.
And then, because of that, it's like, maybe we could have hit a little harder, like what we needed, and so that's what that one is. But you're right, though. We have like a whole thing where we need a recording. We have to fake a death. We got you're right. There are a lot of hoops to jump through.
It's so much.
Like, for example, I think the Fall Guy starts really strong with the way we build up that big stunt that injures him. That's great.
I agree.
Then,
the first 10 minutes, I was into it.
First 10 minutes, and then you have the thing of like, okay, how's his life now? And that's where things start to kind of, the degrading kind of starts a little bit plot wise there. It's like, okay, we did a time, we jumped a few months ahead, and there was a conspiracy where the conspiracy makes no sense. That's the problem. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Why would this person need to be framed? Are there no other people he could frame?
Yeah, it's not great.
So, but it's like it was enjoyable, but it's no Bullet Train.
All right. Next up, we have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I'll let you go first on this one, Dragon. I'm actually curious what you thought of it.
So, look, I've had to rethink on this movie a bit, because I think it's a solid movie, but it's not quite topping the Matt Reeves films. When I initially watched it, I think I had a criticism that was not fair against the movie. is that I kind of missed the whole part of the marketing where it was like, because again, I tried staying away from a lot of the marketing so I kind of go into the movie fresh. I saw like 2 trailers and I missed the 300 years in the future.
Oh, okay, yeah, that would
So
throw you off if you don't know about it going in.
my big question was like, what? Where the f is Cornelius?
Long dead, my dude.
I know, that's the thing. So you think about this: you're going to the movie, you see the start of it. There's Cornelius, and then he's not in the rest of the movie. So that's kind of that's sticking to my craw a little bit. Like, where's Cornelius now? When you realize, like, okay, it's 300 years in the future, but then that opens up a can of worms for him. Where I think the movie that we have is perfectly serviceable. There's nothing really wrong with it, but it's just. I respect the boldness of the 300 years later, and I love a lot of like the things that we have going in this movie, like Peter McCone as basically the Dr. Zaius orangutan, fill-in character. As
he was awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome. That's a great actor. He's from the Orville. He plays kind of our Worf parody on the Orville. He's great. So that's what I'm saying.
I love everything about that character. I love how it connects back to Caesar. I thought it was like really thoughtfully done how this ties into Caesar.
Yeah, I mean, here it's just kind of this where again, there's nothing wrong with this movie per se. The only issue I have with it is that it kind of dawns on me, especially with the 300 years thing factored in there, is that it's kind of. The trick of it all is kind of dwindling, like the trick of like, why do we want to watch the Planet of the Apes movies? We the whole rebooting it the way we have. We reverse engineered the hat trick of Planet of the Apes, where we see how we get to the Statue of Liberty. That's the whole point of the Planet of the Apes movies. And in the background of those movies, we said we put the astronaut into space, and at some point you imagine he's going to come back down. We're going to have the Statue of Liberty there, and okay, we fit in the pieces and we've remade that basically like Bates Motel. We've kind of done the Bates Motel approach to it. That's kind of what I expected with these movies and with the revitalization of these movies. Now, clearly, I mean, there's room for that, but we can't have that same astronaut come down 300 years later. It's not going to happen, and I kind of had to reconcile with that. But then it kind of raises the point. Why are we still here? Like, what more story is there to tell if we're not going to have like man kind of real coming down and seeing?
You know what? Even more to that point, I kind of feel like the characters, without giving anything away, the characters that they did decide to kill off in this movie, all 3 of them, to me, were like the 3 characters that you could have actually done more with, and like they could have had more of an arc, but they didn't. And that, to me, is like a big sticking point with this movie. I think the characters they decided to kill off were very ill-advised, especially if they're wanting to start, if they want this to be the start of a new trilogy.
It's just kind of dawned on me I keep saying dawned, which of course is a very poor choice of words talking about this franchise. But it kind of occurs to me that, again, it's just in a whole franchise built on getting to the "you blew it up" kind of moment. It's just like, it just feels what is our big revelation going to be, and it just feels like we're going to be telling the same story now going forward. Now there's no season, now there's no like the how we got here moment, or like the human eyes reacting to this for the first time. It feels like all we can do is just tell the same story over and over again. Maybe humanity has a chance to come back, like maybe our through line. Like the end of this movie, without spelling it out, just feels like I was disappointed with the ending of this movie. I
was too. Yeah.
That's where the end of the Planet of the Apes movie is always like the most important part, and it feels like we dropped the ball there. But the movie up to that point, it was pretty solid. But you're right, we're killing off all the most interesting characters in the film. We have a good set piece for Act 3. We have a great character in Proximus.
Proximus was amazing. One of the better villains that we've had this year, just in general, I think.
Like, to me, it just feels like what I was marketed and what I expected was like, okay, we're seeing how the apes built the civilization that historically, the franchise is kind of, so maybe this is like the stuff that gets us there. But I think the 300 years was a mistake. I think that was a thing where we've separated far too much. I don't know. It's just, that's what I just have trouble with now.
Kind of feels like it's almost too much of a time gap. And then I feel like just as far as like things have actually progressed, it's almost like not enough.
Like, it would have been more impressive if like they got to this. I mean, looking at this, like, obviously with humanity going, we're not going to get as futuristic. But even looking at that, it just feels like, we're just, while it's not as futuristic, it just feels like it would be more impressive on the apes' part if they were able to get to this point in society and starting all over, like shortly after we last saw them. Like we wiped out the last vestiges,
Right,
and then we're
yeah.
building to it, and then like I don't know, it seems like I don't buy that there's that many humans trailing like that 300 years later. I don't
I
buy
feel
that.
that. I feel that for
Like,
sure.
that's what I'm saying. There's like a lot of holes in the logic of the world building this movie. When the world building that we are getting is great, but it does not fit that timeline.
I also had a pretty big issue where all the apes from like the main Eagle clan,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of blended together for me, like character design wise.
I mean, a little. The whole divisiveness between the ape segments. I mean, that was an idea that I think it seemed. Basically, it seemed like we have like like basically our eagle kind of our eagle clan. And then we have like the apes on by the beach. The kind of the whole all Proximus guys. It feels like they were next door, but it felt like a whole trek to get there. Which is like I don't really get that.
Yeah.
On the whole thing of like we have a Nova, we just call Nova, where it feels like for a moment
That was awkward.
I was thinking, could that be Nova growing up potentially? And it's like, no, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Noah, it just feels like they want to continue where they left off, but for some reason they lack the confidence because Matt Reeves isn't there.
And then as far as like the actual quality goes, I'm pretty steadfast where I think this is. I will say it's better than Rise. I don't love Rise, so I would say it's better than Rise. Definitely not anywhere close to the Matt Reeves movies. Definitely not. So it's very much in between the two quality-wise for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because with Rise, I just don't think there's anything as memorable as Proximus in Rise. And that's, like, at least Proximus really stands out in that regard. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah. I will say with the director, I'm more on board with him doing Zelda than I was, just because I think visually he does do a really good job. I mean, let's be real here. These Apes movies have always been really great tech demos more than anything else, but this one just doesn't have the heart that the Reeves movies did.
Yeah.
So, all right. Next up, we've got, oh God. Dragon, you ready for Old Dad's 2024, baby?
Oh God! All right, just let's talk about Unfrosted.
This movie is barely a fucking movie, Dragon. It's barely a fucking movie. Okay. I mean, it is an airplane movie. I did like. It's so disposable. This movie's so fucking disposable. It's kind of crazy.
All right, so so Unfrosted. It basically it's kind of it's kind of this new genre we might be exploring more. It's biopic farce kind of genre here, where it's basically it's kind of a biopic farce through Jerry Seinfeld's observational humor lens, on the Pop-Tart. The man loves breakfast, ergo he loves the Pop-Tart. It's I think it's fun and enjoyable, but I concur. It's
His glorification of breakfast is just so fucking stupid.
Well, oh, come on, stupid's a little harsh. It's kind of funny.
Hey, let's all sit down and have some bowls of cereal while we. Also, just, I mean, I don't really like to put modern politics into it, but like, Jesus Christ, Jerry Seinfeld is about the most tone-deaf motherfucker on the face of the earth right now with his like campaign to be as unlikable as possible. I don't know how much you know about that, but yeah. He's very much just going on the whole thing of like, well, everyone's woke these days, and that's why my movie failed. I'm like, bro, calm down. You wrote a stupid fucking Pop-Tarts movie, dude. So I will say, very fucking surreal to have a movie with goddamn Thurl Ravenscroft as a lead character.
Yep.
That being said, Dragon, I'm sorry, that is not remotely Thurl Ravenscroft.
Well, that's the point. Okay, so here's what I'm getting at. Okay, is that the movie is fun and enjoyable. Admittedly, no argument.
Would it kill them to find I love Hugh Grant. All right,
he's interrupting me again. Keep going.
Oh God, I'm just gonna say, would it kill them to find an actor who actually sounded like Thurl Ravenscroft?
Okay, but again, that's just the fact that this whole movie again. It's not great. It's ultimately just Jerry Seinfeld used his Fu Seinfeld clout to make a pop art movie that Kellogg's at no point was probably aware of, or they probably became aware of at a certain point. They did not.
It acts like Pop-Tarts propaganda, though.
Well, that's the thing, though. Is the fact that the whole point of this movie, the charm of the movie, I guess you could say, is that it's the fact it's just kind of an amusing, like,
look at air quotes there.
So the whole point is that Seinfeld just was able to get away with this and just like make a movie, just not care what else thinks.
What is he trying to get away with, though? He wrote a dumb serial movie. I genuinely am baffled by how he or you think that's like some sort of cutting edge idea.
No, it's not. I'm saying he's getting away with making a biopic not remotely accurate, like the Thurl Ravenscroft thing. That's what I'm saying. Is the fact that he can just do this, and he's like doing all this things that he finds funny, like like the whole silly putty gang, with.
Let me tell you, my dude, I fucking could not stand that sea monkey ravioli thing. I could not fucking stand it, Dragon.
I know. I didn't like it either. I'm not arguing with I'm just saying that's the fun thing of the movie, where it's like, man, just Seinfeld was able to do this. He's just like used all of his Seinfeld money. He just made a movie just for the heck of it, and just put a lot of this wacky stuff in it for making a very inaccurate biopic.
Now, obviously, Bill Burr as Kennedy, for the brief screen time he gets, is entertaining. I will say that.
That's what I'm saying. We get moments like that where it's just that's pretty funny. It's like we had a whole bunch of wall-to-wall comedians, and some of them really well cast in the parts.
I will say Jack McBrayer as Stephen Schwinn. He was probably my favorite character in the whole thing. I don't know. I just really like when that dude pops up. Mm-hmm. And he has a horrific death scene. I don't care about spoilers for this movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Melissa McCarthy's character seemed relatively pointless. I'll say that much.
Well, yeah. I would say that's what I'm saying. There's an absurdist charm to the movie. Just, man, look at what Seinfeld did. He directs a movie just for pure farce.
So I think this movie would have been better if they leaned into it being a parody of all the other like corporate biopics that we've been getting. If this was essentially a parody of Flamin' Hot or something like that, I think it would have been funnier. But I think the fact that we make it such a farce that it's basically a cartoon, it kind of takes away from any of the potential satire that we could have gotten out of something like this. And at the end of the day, it's a big old mess of a movie, Dragon. I don't know what to tell you. Production, I like certain elements of it. I like the old school production design. I thought that was handled well. As stupid as some of it, Peter Dinklage honestly has the best fucking cameo in the whole movie.
Well, yes and no. Yes, great cameo. He shows up there. He's great. Problem, I hate that aisle scene. I hate the punctuation of the aisle scene.
Yeah, I don't know.
Really, that's the one scene you're gonna trash everything.
I'm not gonna defend it, but it was like I was much more offended by the stupid sea monkey ravioli creature.
I'm not saying we don't look. I would have cut the sea monkey ravioli, okay?
I mean, goddamn, they literally fucking, like, he's literally, like, the punctuation of the whole goddamn movie.
I know. I don't know what to do with the sea monkey is, all right? That's the point. It's just the fact that you're it's like looking at it like an eye chart. Like, wow, why did Seinfeld do that? But he did it. But again,
all right, Kokios, is this living up to your old dad's cravings, my friend?
He doesn't care.
I think he cares very deeply.
Oh, I think he's very disappointed in this. I think you've overhyped the old man's thing. But anyways. But you're right, Tiki. That's what I'm saying. Is that the movie it does have like a nice old time production values. It's kind of nice to see everyone, and it's just very cute. Like, look at what he did. It's kind of cute. It's not great. It's not.
I mean, Seinfeld with his. It was nice to see Jerry Seinfeld at the end of Curb Your Enthusiasm, but after his fucking publicity campaign for this movie, frankly, it's not going to be nice to see that man pop up ever again, honestly.
I haven't looked into it.
He is a tired old man who is out of touch with reality.
My point is, like, I haven't really followed any of that, Tiki. I don't know.
Well, that might be where the discrepancy is coming from between our two opinions, Dragon, honestly.
Why do you always follow that? How is this coming up?
I'm sorry that I live on the internet.
I mean, I don't know. Like, it sounds like more like he's making fun of. Like, I don't know how sincerely he's saying all that too. Anyway, I don't know if you read it or if you saw a clip of it. That's what I don't know.
He's not being sincere about it. This is the movie that you fucking go to bat for.
I think he knows that it's not going to be well received. I think he's just like saying, "Oh yeah, that's the reason." Like everyone else is using that excuse of like, I think, "Oh yeah, that's why." It's just like I think he knows why it's not going to do well. He's made a movie for the heck of it, for giggles, just so he can put his friends in a movie. He basically made the equivalent of an Adam Sandler movie, only it has some nicer production values.
Okay, that's Dragon. I feel like all they needed to do was just not make it an out-and-out cartoon. And it wasn't like, for example, the Weird Al biopic, I think, is the closest comparison that you can have to this movie.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Weird Al
movie is absurd. That movie is ridiculous. At no point is there anything that happens in that movie that actually stretches the foundations of actual reality. Yeah, it stretches the foundations of the true story, but it's still like, there's not a lot of stuff in that movie that could just straight up not happen, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm too hard on that fucking sea monkey thing, but that sea monkey thing kind of ruined the whole goddamn vibe for me.
Here, okay, there's no debate. I'm not disagreeing. It's not the end of the world, is all I'm saying. It's like, yes, I know it's not good, but it's enjoyably not good. That's all I'm saying. It's like, I like seeing Bill Burr play Kennedy. I don't know. I like
like 5 minutes. For like 5 minutes.
The absurdity of like we're taking breakfast, like we're treating breakfast like the arms race. I think that's funny.
You know what, Dragon? I will give the movie one thing, and then we will move on. All right? Are you ready? I do think the forbidden love story between Kellogg and Marjorie Post, I thought that was genuinely kind of funny and sweet.
Okay.
And honestly, it's probably the best I've ever seen Amy Schumer, in that she did okay, and I didn't just outwardly hate her the whole time she was on screen.
I do think it's funny we had Dean Norris in both, the Curb finale and this.
You know what I thought when I saw him pop up like that? I was like, okay, when Bryan Cranston and Giancarlo pop up, they're typically doing like riffs on their Breaking Bad characters. Not Dean Norris, though. Dean Norris is like the one guy who's like, he is actively doing stuff that is like not in the Hank Schrader mold. And I gotta give him respect for that, man. Because honestly, I think Hank Schrader, out of all the Breaking Bad characters, he's the one where you could, if you wanted to just coast on that energy for the entire rest of your career, you probably could. Dragon, there's a lot of speculation about what character Giancarlo is going to play in the MCU. He's going to play a slightly nefarious boss man, I'll tell you that much, because that's all that Hollywood is capable of casting him in. Where's my Giancarlo fucking romantic comedy, Hollywood? That's what I want.
That would be nice. You know what, though? I'm going to go as far as to say this.
Or put him in like a new, like a Last Vegas, or one of those types of movies.
Well, you know what's sad? You know why we're not getting those? Especially why we're not getting romantic comedy with Giancarlo.
Huh.
So the industry discriminates. It's like an age thing. So they think he's too old to fall in love.
How dare they?
I know, right? Isn't that sad, though?
He's not even that old.
That's like the old starlet thing of like if you're over 30, it's like that's the end. Where it's like no, look at him. He's a good looking, charming man. He can carry it. He's very lovely. All they need to do is like show him like doing an interview or a convention or something. He's very lovely.
Little Blue, I will say for the Thurl Ravenscroft thing, for anyone who actually cares, I think the quote-unquote Thurl Ravenscroft in this movie is so different from the actual Thurl Ravenscroft that I can, like, totally separate him into his own person. Like, this is absolutely not the Thurl Ravenscroft.
I mean, tell me the opening scene with him isn't funny, though. The idea, like, him in the Tony the Tiger suit and coming up with great. Like, that's funny.
I mean, I guess, but it's just like every other biopic where it's like, oh, there it is. He said the line. Oh,
but that's the thing. Look, that's where it comes down to. Is you're right. Okay, it could have been weird. Weird is the only comparison we have for it. It's just the fact that again, Seinfeld didn't care about the writing, and he's wearing that on his sleeve. He didn't care about the writing. If he cared about the writing, you're right. It would be satire.
All right,
but it wasn't.
Okay, we spent way too much time talking about Unfrosted. Let's move on.
Oh, by the way, one last thing.
Oh God.
You know, when I did a little review and kind of get together with my friends, and you know, I had party favors. The unfrosted.
Those little mini Pop-Tarts.
No. I had a box of the unfrosted Pop-Tarts. So they were exactly the ones from the movie. Gave them out. I had never tried the unfrosted Pop-Tarts. I tried one. I didn't like it.
It's not great.
No, that's the thing. It was like I don't know what I was thinking because I like the frosted ones more. I was like, I never had the unfrosted.
As soon as I started actually caring about my dental health, that's kind of when I got off of the Pop-Tart train. Because my God, those crusts like stick in my teeth like a motherfucker, man. They really do. Anyways. Okay, next up we have Movie Pass, Movie Crash. Dragon, I thought this was fun enough. It was good. Here's the thing though, I kind of feel like we're in this weird age of the documentaries where you're either going to get like a movie or a series that should just be a movie. Like, for example, I strongly feel like the Kevin Spacey thing that we're going to talk about, that is literally 2 45-minute episodes. There's no reason why that shouldn't have been a movie. This, on the other hand, I actually think this would have been a little bit better if you stretched it out a little more, because I think I very much remember seeing the story of this play out in real time. It's a lot like the GameStop thing for me, where I very much remember it playing out in real time. And I will say, Dragon, this movie covers the basics fine. Like, it does a good job laying it out. There's a lot of little nooks and crannies to this story that this movie just does not get into. So, I don't know, man. I honestly think this could have benefited from like a 3 or 4 episode run.
I mean, there's definitely. I don't disagree with you there. I mean, I remembered a bit of the Movie Pass thing. I think my father signed up for it at some point. I remember seeing the Movie Pass kind of come up a lot. And I don't know if it's like the current iteration or if it was like I think it was like during because I remember it was like a good deal. So I think it was probably during the initially a good deal. So I think it's probably during the start, like the early part of it.
Uh-huh.
I remember like limitations and
thing about it is that there were so many different incarnations of Movie Pass, like, you know, that it's almost impossible to fit them all into. And here's the thing: it maybe didn't need to be a show, but Dragon, when these documentaries do come out as documentaries, Dragon, I'm genuinely curious here because I know the Jim Henson one is also fucking 90 minutes. Is there some sort of fucking law that these documentaries can't go over 90 minutes? Because it's kind of driving me a little crazy.
Well,
I truly think this movie could have benefited from being 2 hours. Like, you don't need it to be a full series, but even just an extra 20 minutes or so really could have helped it.
Well, I've heard documentarians kind of mention, like, basically there's, like, for example, the great John Schnepp. okay, he mentioned like in the runtime. Clearly, there's other things he would have loved to have put in the movie, but he kind of figured there's a certain runtime thing where if you go over a certain runtime, then you're going to lose the audience, or it's going to become a slog or a drag. And I think that's the fear. Now, mind you, that's more for something like if you were making like I mean, I guess it could apply to anything, but I think it was more so for something like if you have like a singular kind of focus, like the Jim Henson thing. That's more like a life, but I don't know, even looking at in comparison to the Superman Lives, the death of Superman Lives, this is like an anatomy of an app failure documentary, and that was like an anatomy of a movie failure.
Uh-huh.
So you could, in theory, still like I think it's possible, like in limiting the runtime, you can still get a good movie out of it. So that's more like an editing thing of like what key moments do you want to get in there, and I think maybe we get bogged down a little in like some repetitive information. I think that's maybe what we condensed. And you're right, we could have expanded upon in episodes versus like a movie. But that's the thing, though. It's like if we did longer, there's a chance that it might just done more of that versus like just like I think it's less adding more to it, just more like maybe we shaped up a little bit what we had. Because I do love the core story. Like we have these guys that had a really good idea for the movie pass, and then the idea kind of got over marketed and kind of taken from them, basically to sell stock, and just
Right.
kind of balloon from there. I think the ending, I love how it ends. I think it ends real nicely at the very end.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
I'll sign off on that one. All
Yeah.
right.
But you're right, not
Okay.
Yates.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Furiosa, the movie that fucking broke the internet by how much it flopped. My God.
I didn't
Am
know
I
how
the
this
only
movie
one
did.
who wasn't surprised that this thing didn't do well? And I was looking forward to it, but I'm like, okay, guys, like this is a prequel that literally doesn't star any of the people that were in your last movie that came out fucking 11 years ago, or I'm sorry, 9 years ago, that also didn't do well. Like, hello, McFly. Like, are we really surprised that this didn't do well? Seriously, I genuinely don't understand the sheer shock of like, oh my God, Furiosa flopped. Ugh. Okay, Dragon. Chris Hemsworth is absolutely the reason to see this movie. Chris Hemsworth fucking steals the show. He plays the villain. He plays the guy who kidnaps Furiosa as a child, and I genuinely love his character. I honestly think his character is even more fleshed out than Immortan Joe is in Fury Road. His character, like in the first half, it does show you how his charisma led him to acquiring the power that he did get, but then the second half shows that like behind all the charisma is just like a fucking idiot who is a terrible leader, and I love both halves of that. Dragon, the CGI in this movie, when the trailer first came out, I was totally willing to look the other way on it. I was like, okay, you know what? Like, maybe it's unfinished. Maybe we're just seeing certain shots and most of the movie will look like Fury Road. No. It's, I hate to say it, but the stuff that looks like Fury Road in this movie is very much the exception and not the rule. This movie looks like a fucking Spy Kids movie, Dragon, and that's bad. That's by far the main issue I have with it. The green screen in this movie is not good. It's just not. Yeah, man, I don't know. The effects were just, I mean, I totally get that George Miller is an old man. If he's tromping out in the desert as much as he was in the Fury Road shoot, that would probably literally kill the man. But
Well, no. What he would do is he'd have that water mask on, like the guy in the first movie did. Like
right.
He'd be walking, or he'd be driving a little golf cart around like that.
I just don't. And the Furiosa character herself in this movie, I think I want to be clear here. I think Anya Taylor-Joy does a really solid job with it. However, I mean, granted, I get that there was some onset drama with Charlize Theron. From what I understand, it was mostly Tom Hardy and Theron didn't get along. I don't know how much of that was George Miller. But let's just say, Dragon, by a certain point in this movie, Anya Taylor-Joy feels so much like Charlize Theron that it is both a testament to her as an actress that she is like absolutely channeling that performance. Like she feels dead on. But also, okay, like why is it this just Charlize Theron at this point? Especially because by the time that we actually get to Furiosa, like, you know, where she's fully formed with a mechanical arm and everything and the bald head, that's pretty late into the movie. And without giving away too much about how the movie ends, like we go pretty much right up into like this movie very much bleeds into Fury Road. Like the ending of this movie very much is one of those. It's like a Rogue One ending, right? That's the best way I can describe it. Is that it's very much like it dovetails directly into the next movie. So yeah, the fact that it is Anya Taylor-Joy and not Charlize Theron, in spite of the fact that the timeline does exactly match up to Fury Road, that's awkward. Okay, Little Blue says, "Are we sure Furiosa sucked? Because I don't seem to have heard the movie being received poorly." Little Blue, I don't think it sucked. Again, I genuinely appreciate the world building here. Chris Hemsworth is a fantastic villain. It's definitely the best Chris Hemsworth performance I've ever seen of him. Koki asked, neither of us saw Garfield. I'm sorry. I'll probably check it out when it comes to streaming. But yeah, I mean, obviously going into this, I knew it was going to be a step down from Fury Road because Fury Road is like a fucking like lightning in a bottle type of movie. But yeah, like if Fury Road is a 10 out of 10, this is like a 7 out of 10. You know, it's not a bad movie, but it's certainly not even close to being what the last movie was. So definitely really admirable elements of it, but also, I mean, look, Dragon, with the effects work, like, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is almost all CGI, right? Like, that movie is practically Avatar levels of CGI, but it looks damn good. This movie has a lot of practical stuff in it, but the CGI that it has looks awful. So that's kind of the sort of, like, yeah, that's the sticking point there. That's the sticking point. And also I feel like oh god. Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Hoult in Fury Road. I feel like his character wasn't necessarily like an audience surrogate character, but it was like the closest character act to come to actually grounding the story in something meaningful. And that sort of character just doesn't exist in this movie. Like, all the characters in this movie are just George Miller freak shows without a lot of dimension to them. So yeah, overall, in spite of there being some elements that I do enjoy about it, and in spite of Chris Hemsworth clearly, like, Dragon, Chris Hemsworth is so good, I would be totally down to see a spin-off movie just based on his origin story. Like, there's a lot there. Like, he is really, like, you honestly might like this movie better than Fury Road strictly for him. I can't praise him enough. He was great. He was excellent. Most of the rest of the movie was pretty much like good to fine. So not bad, but still I would call it a disappointment. I would call it a bigger disappointment than Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, because Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes I wasn't expecting as much from. So yeah. Alrighty. Next up. Okay. If Dragon, I'm still on the fence about seeing this, so do your best sales pitch to me.
All right, let's see. Okay, so, hey Tiki, do you remember John Krasinski?
Why, I do, Dragon. He directed my favorite movie of 2022, A Quiet Place Part 2. I am very much looking forward to his follow-up movie in the horror genre.
Well, forget
the horror genre.
Well, forget that. You've seen tension. You've seen scares. You know what you need? You need wholesome family values. You need imagination. Yeah, so this is Krasinski collaborating with Ryan Reynolds on a project here. Basically, it's a delightful little movie, not reinventing the wheel, but I tell you, man. Look, obviously, comparisons to Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, they're bound. I think we all knew that going into it. It doesn't help that there's the big purple guy. His name is Blue. It does not help.
What? Are you
Yeah.
fucking serious? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's heinous. Heinous.
His kid was colorblind, being the joke. But yeah.
I mean, that's a cute idea, but make him another character other than fucking Blue. Call him Green. I don't know.
Yeah, but Green doesn't roll off the tongue.
I know. I don't. That's just fucking stupid. Then make him a blue guy, and I don't know.
No. The thing is, if he's blue, it's still anyway. Okay, regardless. Basically, the heart of this film. Here's the thing: the important element of this film that everything really has been selling people. The performance of the little girl in this movie is astonishing. Kaylee Fleming.
I have heard good things about her. I will say that.
Now you and I have both seen her. We've seen her in two other things when she's a little younger. We saw her as young Sylvie in Loki, and she was young Rey in that brief scene we saw from. Well, I think they used her specifically in Rise of Skywalker. I don't know if they put her technically. I think they used her for that. The point being, young Sylvie. So this girl, she's the main girl in the movie. She's really good. She kills it. The film opens really strongly. It's the idea of this. John Krasinski is in the film. He plays the girl's father, and he's in a hospital. And he's putting on. It's Krasinski using all
Does
the
he
charm.
not have a lot of lines again because that's kind of his go-to.
Well, no, he has lines, but you're right, not a lot of lines, but he's got lines. And he is the screen time that he has, and he's in it. Don't get me wrong, he's in it. We don't axe him, but he's not in it all throughout the movie because he's kind of more like he's kind of a motivation for the girl. He's there and he's in a hospital, and he's just using all the goodwill, all the charm he's ever worked up as Jim Halper, just in general. Like all the Krasinski charm is in this performance of him as a father.
Okay.
And you feel for this little girl in this position, and basically she's that's a thing where again the plot, I can't really speak highly of the plot, where basically it's like she runs into Ryan Reynolds and this whole enterprise that he's trying to help place basically imaginary friends, and she kind of wants in on this. And like Ryan Reynolds, it's always hilarious seeing him get cynical with all the whimsical imaginary friends and the girl. He's getting tough with the little girl, so that's a lot.
I will say I have heard that Reynolds is cynical, and Reynolds was one of the things that was kind of like I did not feel like watching another fucking Free Guy performance from Ryan Reynolds, Dragon, because you know how much I love Free Guy.
Every time you put on Free Guy, it's just kind of a knife, that? Just every time Free Guy, because I really like that movie, and you just gotta,
And I really don't. Very much don't.
It's just like, hey, here's some cake. I don't like Free Guy. I'm gonna kick you in the stomach. That's pretty much So thanks for that. Regardless, you just crushing my whimsy there.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the girl's name's B, by the way, for B. Arthur, which is cute.
Who's B?
Exactly. Anyway, all I can really say is there's something pure about this movie at its core, with these imaginary friends.
Does it have Pixar upside?
Pixar upside.
Just as far as it being like a whimsical premise that actually tugs at your heartstrings in a meaningful way.
I think you will find that in this film. I think there are some meaningful heartstring tugging moments. I mean, there are moments where a few of the ifs kind of reunite with some kids that are really, I think, really moving. There's this hilarious gag with Keith. I'm just gonna say that.
Okay.
I'll tell you this. I kind of, by happenstance, I dragged my folks to this. They loved it. They were shockingly charmed us. I thought they were going to hate it. I thought I was just going to stuck because no one else wanted to see this. They're like, oh man, they really like this. Unpromptedly, they like this. That's what I'm saying. Look, not much of a story to it. I will admit that, but it's cute, man. It's cute and got charm for days. I don't know. I thought it's nice.
Yeah, I mean, I probably won't catch it in theaters. I definitely want to catch it at some point, just to continue. Just to see how Krasinski has evolved as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
But, I mean, something tells me that this and A Quiet Place are going to be borderline unidentifiable to each other.
Really? Get out.
All right. Next up, what do we got? We have Babes. All right, this will go by super quick, Dragon. Super quick. This is a romantic. Well, it's not really a romantic comedy. No, I wouldn't describe it as that. It's a pregnancy comedy. Except, unlike Juno, the pregnancy actually happens to people that are like of the appropriate age to get pregnant. No shade on Juno, but that movie did kind of cause like a weird wave of teens actually wanting to get pregnant, which, whatever. I thought this movie was good. I thought it was pretty solid. It's actually directed by Pamela Alden, I think is her name. Bobby Hill.
Yeah, Pamela.
Yeah. So I like that. I don't really recognize the two leads. Do you know Ilana Glazer?
Yes.
You do? Okay. I recognize the name. I can't think of what I've seen her in though.
Well, I mean, she was in that Green Eggs and Ham
cartoon. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, she's on broad. It's broad. Is it just broads or broad? It's got, I mean, it's the show with her and yeah, it's a Comedy Central show. It's like Broad Street or something. It's Broad.
Oh, Broad. Yeah, you're probably thinking Broad Street. Okay, I've never seen that, but yeah. So I don't know. This movie, just put simply, it's a really funny little friendship comedy. The main character is Ilana Glazer, and she gets pregnant right after her best friend has a kid. So her best friend is kind of dealing with having her second child, where Ilana Glazer is kind of dealing with, that transition from being like this wild free spirit to kind of having to transition into like taking responsibility for this child that she's about to have. I will say there's a really interesting plot point regarding the father of her child that I don't want to spoil, but I think it's genuinely one of the best elements of this movie. It kind of caught me out off guard with how tastefully it was handled. I don't know, man. This movie just has a lot of fun chemistry, a lot of good laughs. I will say it has a very, very forced third act breakup, Dragon. A very forced third act breakup. Enough for me to literally roll my eyes in the theater and be like, really? We're doing this? All right. Gee, I'm sure the best friends will never reunite by the time the credits roll. You know what I mean? Oh, it was very forced. It was very forced. But, definitely not a movie that's going to be like on my top 20 or anything, but for what it is, for just being a nice, kind of safe-ish comedy that's a little on the raunchy side, but I still felt fine taking my grandmother to. Yeah, it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable. Not a glowing recommendation, but, it's not a super ambitious movie, so yeah. All right. Next up, Idea Man. All right, Dragon, I'm definitely going to watch this in June. I just did not have time to get around to it by tonight, but yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, so Ron Howard's documentary on Jim Henson, I think it's the first great documentary of 2024 so far,
You know what that means?
What does that mean?
It's not going to be nominated for Best Documentary.
You're right, it's not.
It's absolutely not. No chance.
But yeah, I mean, what's really nice about this is that they kind of he fielded it through kind of like the timepiece thing, which I think is like the only time, like Defunct Land, when the big competition this thing has in terms of like the definitive Jim Henson documentary is what Defunct Land did in its tribute to Jim Henson, but that was done like as a series, not a movie though.
Right. That was very much like not technically TV, but yeah, you're right. Definitely series format.
So that's the thing. So I mean, this is kind of taking a similar approach, which I think was a smart move. Ron Howard basically fielded Timepiece and the Cube thing that he did. So everyone's doing interviews in the Cube room from Jim Henson's short film.
Oh, interesting.
So that's really basically it's kind of like a mixture of that, and it's a little volume-esque, but I don't think they actually use the volume technology. It's basically projected onto the cube. So that's
okay.
It's not your standard like okay, there's people sitting around doing interviews. So there's something like a little more kind of tactile to it, know.
Nice.
So there's that. So that's really nice. I won't lie to you. a part of me wishes it was a little longer, but then again, the only stuff they would do longer is like stuff that I've seen before. Like it would have been like
Yeah,
getting into
in the case of a Jim Henson documentary, I don't really care about getting all the information since I'm assuming I'm going to know most of it anyways. I more care about the editing and
like that's the thing they hit on. They hit on the character of the man. They hit on Jim Henson, like personally, some stuff we don't really hear about Jim Henson a lot. We're like how the stuff with his family, you know, a little bit of that. You know, we hit on Paul. We hit on his home life with his family. We hit on that. Not all, maybe not. I'm gonna guess maybe not to your satisfaction, but I think we hit it the ways we need to. We also splice in like the man's career, and again, the thesis statement of this movie is Jim Henson, right from the get go, he could see everything he wanted to do,
uh-huh.
and he wanted to do it all, but he knew he did not have sufficient time. But he
Yeah,
was
you
like
see,
there
I
for
like
it.
that as a hook, especially
Yeah.
because, like, I mean, I'm sure they get into this, but I think the most impressive shit that he ever did was like those two fantasy movies,
Mm-hmm.
and he never really got the chance to expand on that style, or even like experience those movies becoming beloved over time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, that's the thing. So on one hand, it's like okay, we don't being a Disney, being Disney having involvement in this. It's kind of a double edged sword. On one side, we did pull out the stops. Like we're not for some reason like as I think worst case scenario would be like maybe we don't have the rights to use the Sesame Street characters. We do cover Sesame Street. We do cover Fraggles. We do cover the Labyrinth and the Dark Crystal and everything. We do cover all of that. So it's covered and acknowledged. It's just a matter of like while we're doing that, by the same token, though, clearly the thing you get from Defunct Land we can't do here is we can't call out Eisner really bullying Jim Henson for the Disney deal. We can't talk about that.
yeah,
And so that
yeah.
we Muppet Vision is brought up, but probably again we can't linger on it because of that. And we so there's that, and also the Steve Whitmire of it all. Those are the two things we can't talk about. But again, the whole point, the way they tackle the story is that we're not covering the aftermath of Jim Henson. We're covering Jim Henson. So that's kind of where they end up going in regards to that. So again, it's always a shame that we're not even like Steve Whitmire's become a dirty word with the Henson Company. But it's what it is.
Yeah.
So,
All
but
right.
that's the thing there. But it's not. Again, this the fact that the story is not about that though. So they get to the core of what it's about the man, not about it's about the man and what he built versus like where we go from after he's gone. So I really liked it. It's a story about about an idea man at it that literally lives up to the title. It's very solid and very timely given a number of things that come out around like the week this thing comes out. You have like two other things coming out that have that one of which I'll talk about, and one of which I'll talk about next month. But two things that are very kind of linked or inspired by Jim Henson, or kind of like kind of the stuff that was going on that Jim Henson had involvement in. It's kind of interesting.
Uh-huh. Okay, next one I'm going to go by really quick too. This was very much just my grandma like, hey, I want to go see a movie. What's playing? And I look to see what's playing. And it's like, oh, here's this movie Ezra that I haven't heard of, but it's got Bobby Cannavale and Vera Farmiga. I really like both those actors.
And De Niro.
And De Niro, yeah. So here's the thing with this movie. I'm very mixed on it. It is about an autistic kid. It's very interesting because I feel like obviously autism is a spectrum. I feel like this kid is like very much like smack dab in the middle developmentally between my brother and myself, where my brother is very much on the low functioning side. Myself am very much on the high functioning side. This kid's like smack dab in the middle, which I thought was actually really interesting. Like he can talk, but he is painfully unaware of social norms or whatnot, very overstimulated, yada, yada. Here's the thing. I think Bobby Cannavale his performance is good. He plays a desperate father who just wants his son to be normal very well. The problem is that almost everything that Bobby Cannavale actually does in this movie, which pretty much starts with actively kidnapping the kid away from his ex-wife, is Dragon. It's just unequivocally not the type of shit you should be doing with an autistic child, my friend.
Well, that's the premise of the movie, though.
Yes, I know, but there's so much. There's so much. I'm literally watching this movie and I'm taking notes. Like,
If
man,
you table,
like,
is the movie still good? If you table just that but by,
the movie's all right, Dragon. It's all right. It's perfectly watchable. I will say this much: do not watch it as a Farmiga movie. She pops up for like all of 3 minutes.
well, I mean, I think it'd be approaching more as a De Niro and kind of all movie. Like, how's
De Niro's solid. De Niro's actually one of the better elements.
Well, he plays his dad in that, doesn't he?
Yeah, and De Niro is the person where it's like he's kind of the middle ground where it's like, look, I know that what my son did was really fucking reckless, but also like I don't quite agree with what you're doing either in regards to like how the mother, like, I don't know. It also has this really weird message of like Bobby Cannavale is like fucking terrified to send his son to like a specialty school, you know, for kids with special needs.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it's like supposed to be a time period thing. I genuinely, Dragon, special education saved my life. I don't say that.
Well, yeah, but that's
no. I'm serious. Let me be candid for a second, my friend. That fucking traumatic experience that I had in 6th grade, that I am still reeling from, Dragon. If not for halfway through that school year, the school deciding to put me into special education, I genuinely don't know if I would be here today, my friend. I am a huge advocate for special education. And so I just think it's a fucking terrible message that Bobby Cannavale is so opposed to it. And I will say on my brother's side, yeah, programs like that where he can be among people that are similar to him, it's essential. It's essential to an autistic person's well-being. So it kind of drives me crazy that is like the main conflict. Like, oh no, Ezra can't go to the Artard school. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, Tiki, listen, I haven't seen the movie, but out of curiosity, in the movie, though, is it framed that, okay, so Cannavale's in the wrong there, and he's going to see the error of the way?
No, that's what pisses me off.
Okay, that's the missing variable, Tiki.
It's framed that he's in the wrong for like kidnapping the kid, but it's not framed that he's in that it's framed that he's in the right for not wanting the kid in the school, which I strongly disagree with.
To me, that's a far better point than the kidnapping thing. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, I don't know. Not a ton to say about it. Honestly, a pretty disposable movie. Otherwise, as far as autism rep goes, it's not as problematic as something like Dear Evan Hansen, but I think it's still got its fair share of problematic elements to it, man. Okay. All right. And yeah, like I said, Vera Farmiga in it for all of 5 minutes. She literally does next to nothing.
that was the first mistake.
Yeah.
So,
if Vera Farmiga would have just played his ex-wife, I feel like, and the funny thing is, his ex-wife does have a very Farmiga-esque freak out, and I like Rose Byrne. I really do like her, but man, when I saw that freak out, I was like, oh man, Farmiga would have killed that.
Yeah, just like she walks in the scene, just like, hold my beer. I guess in this case, Ezra.
Oh god.
Anyway, it's also Little Blue mentions Electric Dragon. I guess
Animat.
Well, I know it's Animat. I forget. No. I forgot it was 505. But anyway, so Electric Dragon, aka Animat. Yes, he did do the animation look back on the Muppets and Jim Henson, which is good. But there's a lot of filler there. There's a lot of he's shilling for Patreon. There's a lot of kind of things going on there. But aside from that, how dare
a YouTuber try to make a living, Dragon? Oh my god!
That's the thing, though. It's a fact. There's like a 10-minute plug for like Patreon at the end of Lowe's videos, like a 5 to 10 minute, and here's all my Patreon stuff that's going on.
You know what, Dragon? As far as paid promotion stuff on YouTube videos, Patreon is like by far the one that I am the most accepting towards, my friend.
Well, it's less that; it's just more of like a lot of his upfront stuff. Or like back in the day when he started off doing the animation look backs, he just got right into it. But then there's like a whole overture where he's got to like frame it, and he's doing the thing with the puppet, which is the puppet's cool, but it's like, okay, like just get into the meat of all the good stuff.
I will say Patrick H. Willems also made a really strong video about Muppet cinema recently, so I'll shout that out as well.
Okay.
All right. And Patrick H. Willems also has like a reoccurring Muppet character in this season of his show, and I gotta say I'm really loving that gag. But anyways.
Okay.
All right. Time to get to TV. Dragon, you have way more than I do, my friend.
Yeah.
So we'll plug through that. Hold on, let me switch the banner. All right. Okay. Time for me to be super unpopular, Dragon. I liked the last half of X-Men 97, but I did not love it like the first half.
You're not far off.
Okay, good. I honestly wasn't sure how people felt about it.
Here's the thing. So, overall, X-Men 97, amazing revival. It's the kind of X-Men. I think it's what the X-Men it's what we need with the X-Men right now while the MCU is figuring things out. And obviously, Deadpool doesn't really count and all that because we're having fun. It's not really fully connected with like direction of we're basically, hey, the X-Men exist and here's like 2 really good X-Men, and then we're just going to basically kill off all the others, it seems.
Right.
So that doesn't really count, but it's like we're putting between X-Men 97 and Deadpool. It's like, hey, the X-Men are a cool thing that we like and we're looking forward to once we get our ducks in a row. So this X-Men 97, it looks the way I wanted the X-Men animated series to look all those years back. So I really love it on that level. Like we're doing the stuff we couldn't quite do back then. We're doing it now. It's like I've only kind of gotten close to with Wolverine and the X-Men, so I really love that show.
It's basically a whole show with the animation style that's on par with the actual opening.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, this had me from episode 2. The gripes that I have are like splitting up the Storm episode. I thought that was a mistake.
Oh, that was I think the Storm stuff is by far the sloppiest storytelling in the whole season.
I personally didn't like the thing with the adversary. I think it should have been more like a vision quest and not like this weird like bird thing that comes out of nowhere. It's magic. I don't like the X-Men doing stuff with magic. I know it's technically been done. I don't like it. The villain, with your point, Tiki. So the villain gets introduced too last minute for my taste. That's where things kind of go off the rails. Like I like the villain.
A lot of stuff goes off the rails in the finale for me, Dragon. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Here's my problem with the last 5 episodes compared to the first 5. All right, I think the first 5 episodes you get this perfect build up to the Genosha stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And then you've got that one episode with Genosha to really marinate in it.
Yeah.
And the problem with the second half of the season is that I feel like immediately after the Genosha stuff, you get my least favorite episode of the season just because I was a little lost on the Professor X stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the one time that the show really did not like do a good job of catering to both people that had followed the original show and people that were jumping in. I really felt pretty lost on that whole thing.
The problem, Tiki, is that they did kind of retcon something at the top of 97. They basically said Professor Xavier was basically shot and assassinated by Henry Gyrick. And the fact is, he was just hit by like a little the guy. He walked on stage, he pushed a button on a remote, and then basically Professor Xavier's powers went out of whack, but not dead. Just like, that's the fact. Like it made it sound like he shot him with a gun, and I'm pretty sure they even
there's that issue. There's definitely that issue. I also think just in general, episodes 6 and 7 are just very, very slow paced. But here's the problem. You get to the last 3 episodes, Dragon, and we're speed running through this shit. Yeah. And that was like a whiplash for me, man.
And you're going like, Bastion who?
Yeah. I don't know. It was kind of like I will never forget my first time watching episode 5, Dragon. Episode 5 was a pop culture moment, and I will not take anything away from that. But yeah, nothing in the back half of the season even remotely lives up, except for the Rogue stuff. I really like the Rogue stuff.
Oh, come on. The thing we did with Wolverine in the last 3, the big moment with Wolverine, that was huge.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm talking about, though, is like that's a really huge thing that they did. but I feel like they speed run through it. I feel like, oh shit, all of a sudden this is going down now. All right. Even though Wolverine hasn't really been all that present up until this point. I don't know. Pacing wise, this season, it's very frustrating because like I think the first 5 episodes are almost perfectly paced. Even the filler episode with the video game, I think, was a great kind of like, okay, we're gonna kind of like ease you into a false sense of security here before we hit you with the big guns.
Yeah.
But then after episode 5, I think the pacing just falls apart. Like it's too slow and then very much too fast. So yeah, overall I like it, and like I said, I'll never forget episode 5, but I'm not exactly even excited about a season 2, if I'm being completely honest with you. I mean, I'll watch it, but I probably won't watch it episode by episode as it comes out.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, but Monsters at Work, Dragon. You are not the only person who said that this is an improvement over the first season. I don't want to say I hated the first season, but there were a lot of elements of the first.
Well, I got something I think is gonna tickle. I think it's gonna tickle you here when I rewatch season 1.
Okay.
Before this, so we're talking about Monsters at Work season 2, but so in preparation for I rewatched season 1, and you know what? When I look back on it, there are elements that I think did not hold up as well as I gave them credit for. Where I invest in Tyler Tuscan's goal for the season, but I do think when I look back on it throughout the season, like, the whole thing with Duncan, and then like we have this like Tyler's really wishy-washy a lot of the time. So
he's a terrible protagonist. Just straight up.
But again,
my name.
But again, he had he has a good sell in like episode 1. Like he's got a tremendous sell, but stretching that out for 10 episodes, that's the problem. But season 2 doesn't have that. Season 2 corrects that problem. So here's the thing. So I'm really impressed with season 2. It stepped up its game because I like the mid-quel component of season 1. I like with the premise, but again, as I said on the rewatch, it's iffy in places. There's issues there which I already went through. But season 2 cracked the code, and a lot of that has to do with the Prep and Landing guys, Kevin Dieters. I'm blanking on who the other guys, but the Prep and Landing guys actually show ran season 2.
Okay.
And also
that's actually a really good. That's pretty encouraging. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and also I forgot to mention this too. I kind of rewatching the first season, kind of learned. I was like, oh my god, like Disney was animating Pixar on this.
Oh,
that's the thing. So apparently Monsters at Work from the beginning. I didn't know if it was like just something for season 2. Apparently since the beginning, Disney was animating Pixar on this rather convincingly. But here's the thing: you can see it more in the second season because there's more human kids in the second season. I'm not saying it's like a recurring like there's not like human kids in the monster world, but like we're not doing Boo again per se. But it's the fact of like. There's some gags in which, Tyler, for example, he has a regular, and he has the kid. And we kind of see the kid animated. It's like, oh, man, the human animation of the kids definitely shows this Disney animation, not Pixar animation. Regardless, I don't know. The point that here's the good part. Here's why season 2 is a tremendous step up. Here's why you need to watch it, okay? I'm fascinated by the world building of season 2 because the big thing they did right from the start that they really fixed the Tyler Tuscan character up here is that we acknowledge Tyler has other options. He doesn't have to be a jokester.
Okay.
Right from episode 1, it's like we acknowledge, like Monsters Inc. isn't the only scare company, which we did establish. Oh,
that's interesting.
Which we at the tail end of Monsters University with all the scare cards, there's Fearco, there are other scare companies. So by that logic, he did have other options. He just had the reason he stuck with Monsters Inc. is that he got a recommendation by Henry J. Waters, and that was like what his goal was. That was his goal in life. That's why he stuck with it and went for the change. So season 2 presents this great option through the best aspect of the season, which is Nathan Fillion's character from Monsters University, through Johnny Worthington, who we develop tremendously. Tiki, let me sell you on Johnny Worthington, okay? We play him like Rich Schweikert from Better Call Saul.
Really? Okay. I mean, I love me some Nathan Fillion anyways, so.
So Nathan Fillion, here's the thing. We've had Nathan Fillion in Pixar before. He was Mr. Sterling in Cars 3, and that was an okay character. We didn't do a lot with him, and that was kind of a problem there. But the fact is, we kind of wasted Nathan Fillion a bit in Pixar films. He was in Monsters University, but it's the fact that we we developed him, man. We gave Worthington his most interesting character season 2.
Uh-huh.
And again, we made him Rich Schweiker. We made him a character who was very likable. He's got all the Nathan Fillion charm, but again, he's the opposition to Monsters Inc. But you like him, and he's actually really he's really helpful. We gave him layers, and you see how he's developed since college. There's a lot there, and there's a lot that works. So Tiki, overall, season 2 is great, but there's one problem. Last episode dropped the ball.
I hate to hear that.
I think you have 9 great episodes. Admittedly, there's a character I'm not crazy about, but I think you're going to like him a lot more than I do. Kind of grows with Roger Rogers. He's okay, I guess. Reese Darby plays him. I don't care for him, but I don't know. I think Jacob liked him. You probably like him. Point being, that character aside, you get a solid 9 episodes, then 10. 10 has a great gag with Henry Winkler. Not much. So Fritz is tremendous. Fritz is even better in this season. Fritz is hysterical.
I didn't like him in the first
season. That's the thing. I know you didn't like him in season 1, so I don't know how that's going to fare with you. I think you might see he's even improved, because I think here's the thing. Season 2, we take him out. We take him out of the factory. We're able to do more stuff with him in season 2.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. So there's a lot there, but again, last episode dropped the ball. So I won't. No bones there. There a lot of missteps in the last episode. But everything up to that point, though, very solid.
All right.
Big step up.
Okay. Spacey Unmasked. Did you watch this?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, again, I thought it was really well done. You know what's funny is that it actually reminded me a lot of Baby Reindeer, which you have not watched yet, right?
No, I have not. I've not watched Baby Reindeer. No.
Baby Reindeer has, I don't want to spoil it, but it has a plot point like midway through where the character has an encounter, like it's a flashback where he has an encounter with someone that, let me just say, Dragon, the stories that they were saying here with Spacey, like, it was horrifying how similar they all were to each other, but also it genuinely made me wonder, like, was that Spacey that was fucking, like, that was doing that shit to Richard Gadd? Like, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me, because, like, the details actually pretty much match up. I'm not sure if the timeline matches up, but yeah, I don't know. I thought this was all right. I think it would have been a stronger movie. I literally see no reason why this got broken up into a series.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that either, especially if they only had a finite number of testimonials they wanted to work with. So here's the thing.
Right.
So of course, Kevin Spacey, it was kind of those things where I was kind of like, I was compelled to watch this, even though my heart of hearts I didn't want to watch it, but I kind of had to, because it's like the intrigue. So Kevin Spacey, figure mired in controversy. On one hand, stellar actor. On one hand, we love seeing him pop up in things.
I mean, yes, but let's be honest here, Dragon. One thing does not outweigh the other.
I know. That's what I'm saying. So on one hand, you have he's great in Beyond the Sea. He's great in House of Cards. In retrospect, too good at House of Cards, but he's in House anyway. So on the other hand, you have. We're hearing these stories firsthand, not from the direct transcripts of the court, but these are like the stories that were not, in there, and they're heartbreaking. They're utterly heartbreaking. They're well told, chilling. But it's this weird thing. Tiki, for the life of me, I think it's how they filmed them or something. I don't know. There's something about it. I can't shake shadows of doubt in the execution. And I don't blame it. I don't blame it on the stories that are told, but there's something about it. I'm not even touching
that with fucking 10-foot
I know that.
I believe victims, my friend. I'm sorry.
I'm saying I believe the victims. I'm saying I think the way we shot the victims' testimonials cast a shadow of doubt that shouldn't be there.
All right. I mean, Kogias, it is a lot of really heinous shit that's being told straight from the victim's mouths. So,
here's what I'm getting at. Here's what I was missing, and I think that might have helped a little bit more. Is that I I really wanted to hear from anyone who's like, we heard from like one guy that worked with him. And I thought that was a really compelling testimony we had right at the start. The guy who was like on House of Cards, and that's kind of what I wanted to hear a little bit more from. And there are other like John Bernthal, as mentioned, was like working with him. That's the intrigue I wanted to see. That's the thing that has not been reported, is that Spacey is a like non sexual things happening that people say like, oh, he's
Right.
not really great to work with. And that's what I wanted to dig into more. It's like to kind of balance things out, to kind of add extra legitimacy to all what we're hearing from the testimonials. I'm not saying they're illegitimate. I'm just saying it's like, I think if I compare this to Quiet on the Set, I think there's a difference. Like, this is chilling, but it's no Quiet on the Set. I don't know why there is a difference there.
Quiet on the Set, I think that had more of an arc to it. I think it like because it built to Drake Bell, and then Drake Bell was obviously like the big focal point of the second half. This one was really just like the first half is testimonials, and then the second half is more testimonials.
And I think
that's
Tiki,
different.
that's ultimately what I think. I think you're right, and that's what I think is like what's casting this weird shadow over, like diluting it or someone. Maybe just diluting. It's probably the better way of putting it. Is that it just feels like we're not building to anything. And you're right. Again, if it's not, it's with this runtime, it feels like if we don't have more episodes, we're not really able to like chop it up and build.
Make absolutely no mistake. The fucker is guilty as sin. Guilty as fucking sin. Absolutely. I'm sorry.
Well, Tiki, I don't think you have the right to say that, though.
I think I do.
I don't think
because I believe victims, Dragon.
Yes, you do, but that's the thing. The thing gets into is that he's legally innocent, which is weird.
Yeah, which is the.
That's a thing. Like that, the victims can say that, we can't. That's weird, though.
You know what, Dragon? We are so fucking lucky that we just got the. Not to get too political here, but we are so fucking lucky that we just got the verdict that we got on a very important court case, and yet somehow that motherfucker is turning it into a positive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the court of law means almost nothing to me anymore.
I know that's the thing, though. But that's the weird thing about it. That's why they were.
Dragon, he's a fucking Hollywood actor, dude. I'm just saying that he's a Hollywood actor who is white. It's an uphill battle to actually prosecute him.
No.
All right. Anyways.
Well, either way, the point being, though, I think again, ultimately it boils down to kind of an execution thing. Where you're right. Maybe if it were a movie, it might have a little bit more oomph in how we we thread through the testimonials versus like Quiet on the Set, where it's broken up into 4 episodes, and we are building to a point. And I think maybe that's why the thing it's chilling, but it's a little hollow. Perhaps.
All right. Kogias, I'm just saying, if you hear the details coming from the mouths of the people that actually experienced it, it's pretty hard for me to say that shit didn't happen. When you hear the actual pain in their voices.
I still think the middle ground is that I think now the way it was initially handled is why we can't just say one way or another, like anything on the Kevin Spacey matter. Is the fact that it was just everyone. There was a lynch mob before it was like actually like processed. That's the thing. Had it been like, had we gotten everything, then we would have been able to make that determination in the court of public opinion. But because public opinion was just kind of strung up, then people are saying, well, that's just people jumping to conclusions versus like, well, we saw how it went up. We still have that icky feeling at the end of it. Okay.
All right. So the Jinx Part 2. I'm sometimes dubious of these like documentary sequels, but is this one worth looking into?
I would say so, Tiki. I mean, the Jinx already is something. I mean, remind me, did you ever get around?
I did.
Okay,
Although granted, it's been a while, so I'd probably want to refresh myself on it.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea. So yeah, Jinx Part 2, highly anticipated returns, given how the big barnstorm of an ending that the Jinx Part 1 had. Bob Durst, he's on trial. It's surreal. There are some wacky moments amidst the trial. Plus, it's going on during a pandemic, so there's that too. Things we see some of his associates, which are some of them are really crazy. There are some twists. There are some turns. It's interesting seeing this from the perspective of the documentarian who now is like in this really unique position after what he's done in the first season to kind of revisit the story.
I mean, Tiger King season 2 was a goddamn waste of time.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is not that. This is
Uh-huh.
like an actual it's an actual thing. Now, I don't know how you're going to feel about the ending. That's the thing. It's not that the last episode isn't good or anything. It's just the fact of like you have to live up to the ending of the first season. So I don't know how it quite measures up to that. But this is like event TV, man. This was a solid event TV kind of moment. The Jinx
Uh-huh.
Part Two. So of like of the true crime stuff, this is like the first big true crime thing like people definitely need to check out.
I mean, I would say Quiet on Set is
Well, sorry, well,
really
you
not
know what I
also.
mean. I meant like regards to murder, but yes, you're right. That's true crime
Yeah,
in a
but
different.
Quiet on Set is that
I
shit's pretty heinous
I
in its own
know it's
right.
heinous. I'm saying in terms of the genre that we're talking about, this
Okay.
true crime,
Okay.
not that true crime.
Fair enough. All right.
Different true crimes, both crimes, just different, different subsections, subgenres of trauma, I guess.
Little Blue, the documentary actually gets into Spacey doing impressions as like a point of creepiness, honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't know, guys. I'm sorry. I know he's he is a good actor. Yeah, but
That's the
dude's a piece of
fascinating
shit.
thing.
I'm sorry. He's a fucking monster.
Mm.
I believe victims, Dragon. That's the moral of the story
You
here.
seem really defensive about the victims thing. You seem really like hung up on that.
I don't.
Are you
Yeah,
afraid that we're not going to believe you?
excuse me for actually believing people that earnestly are coming on camera and saying that their mental health was pretty much ruined by this
Yes. Well,
fucker.
I don't know why
Like,
you're thinking you
excuse
need.
me for that. I'm
No, you
terribly
seem to.
sorry.
No, it's like why do you think people aren't going to believe you when you say that? You keep saying it a lot.
But Dragon, I'm just saying, like, look, I'm not Little Blue. I'm not gonna like, judge you or think you're a bad person because you still watch Kevin Spacey. Like, I'll still watch movies that Kevin Spacey is in, like A Bug's Life, for example. I'm not gonna stop watching A Bug's Life or something. However, I think I kind of draw the line at like movies that Kevin Spacey stars in that he actively has a creep factor in. Like, for example, Seven. That's not a problem because the dude's a monster in real life. He's a monster in that movie. American Beauty, on the other hand, I will never rewatch American Beauty for as long as I live. Fuck that movie. Anyways.
Right.
Okay, It's Always Sunny, seasons 3 and 4. So yeah, I will say with Always Sunny, season 3, I liked it. I didn't love it as much as season 2. Some of the episode premises there felt a little bit tired to me. Like, for example, I really didn't like the gang gets whacked two-parter. I thought that was a little bit too drawn out. I don't know. I feel like the Sweet D is dating a R word person. I thought was
Mhm.
I mean, granted, yes, I know that they're supposed to be horrible people, but that one just struck a chord with me, obviously, for obvious reasons. I don't know, man. I feel like the gang solves the North Korea situation pretty outdated with its racial stuff. I feel like this is a weird kind of like in between season for me. The one really good thing about it is that like I said at the end of season 2, like the last episode of season 2, I feel like that's where Frank went from like like sad old man who wants to be the gang's father figure to like just straight up lunatic. And that line carries over here, and it's very funny to see. But I just didn't gel with this as much. I just didn't gel with it as much. I think the highlights for me are probably Mac is a serial killer and then Dennis looks like a registered sex offender. I thought that episode was hilarious. Dennis in general, I'm really loving. Especially because I saw that actor first in Blackberry, so it's very surreal to see like Glenn Howerton like in the role that he's obviously more well known for. Yeah, and that getting solidified. Season 4, huge improvement. Season 4 is by far the best season of Always Sunny yet that I have seen. Really, really great episodes here. Max banging the waitress. I really love that as a bottle episode. Oh, I'm sorry. The gang gets whacked isn't the episode I thought it was. Mac and Charlie, I don't even remember what the gang gets whacked is about. I'm sorry. Oh, wait, no, isn't that the one where it has like Frank's Barbershop Quartet gang in it? That was kind of funny. Yeah, no, I know what it is. Okay, yeah, they steal the. Anyways, who pooped the bed is actually really funny. Patty's Pub, the worst bar in Philadelphia. Sweet D has a heart attack. Of course, has the infamous bulletin board moment with Charlie, which is great. The Nightman Cometh is an awesome finale. Just like kind of like that episode, like the end of that episode is almost like it sort of just fully crystallizes just how creepy Charlie is with the waitress in a really funny way. With the whole like, oh yeah, I got you here so you could marry me. Like, no, Charlie, I'm not gonna fucking marry you. You're insane. But Dennis Reynolds, An Erotic Life, Dragon, I already brought this up to you. That is the best Always Sunny episode for me so far in these first 4 seasons. Just, oh my god, everything about that episode. I can't get over how fucking funny Sinbad is in that episode. He is just, every time Sinbad popped up, I was just dying. So yeah, I think, and then also, this episode is a little bit divisive from fans, from what I understand, but I really liked it. The gang cracks the Liberty Bell. Do you remember that one?
Oh yeah, that's the historical one. Yes.
Yeah. I really liked that one. I really thought it was like one of the first like ones where they really play around with the format. I really love how they play around with Dennis and how vain he is in that time period. I think that's really funny. Good stuff all around. I think this episode, the weakest one for me is probably Mac and Charlie Die Part 1 and 2, which is what I thought The Gang Gets Whacked was, but I actually like that 2-parter a little bit better. Not that episode's bad, by the end of it, I just kind of feel like the joke had kind of run its course. It was getting a little repetitive by the end of it. But overall, definitely a high point season for me for Always Sunny. And yeah, looking forward to more. I am definitely it's probably going to take me the whole rest of the year to get through all of it, but I'm definitely determined to at this point. All right. And now, Dragon, I want you to make like the last 3 episodes of X-Men 97 and speed run this shit, my guy. Except the bear. You can talk about the bear all you want.
All right, well, I'm not. How lengthy do you think I'm going to be with each of these?
It depends on how much you like them, Dragon. If you're really passionate about any of them, you could go on for quite a while, my friend.
All right, anyway. All right, so Star Wars, of course, you May the 4th be in this month. Tales of the Empire.
Uh-huh.
So again, I love the format. I love the specific anthology format from the whole Tales of the Jedi one they did previously. Admittedly, this one not as strong as I hoped, because I was looking forward to the whole Empire kind of theming there. But basically, our two characters, we have Morgan Elsbeth, from Mandalorian and Ahsoka.
Uh-huh.
Thing has a good conceit, but I don't think goes the direction I was kind of hoping for. I think it kind of peters out. It's like
I've never been really all that into the idea of witches in Star Wars in general. So.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you watch Clone Wars, they kind of like the whole Witches of Dathomir thing. They kind of sell you on it. But I get it. I get the skepticism. But the point being, though, is like Elsbeth it's the problem with Elsbeth is like really interesting sell. Like General Grievous killed her mother. And then basically we know where she ends up. Basically, she ends up in Mando. It's essentially what the very end of her 3-episode story is. So it's not really much of like, oh, that really went somewhere. The other one is Barris Ophi. I'm probably butchering how to pronounce her name, but basically this is the most interesting aspect. So the other story was about a Jedi who during the fall was recruited as an Inquisitor. So she lost her way. She kind of fell to the dark side as one of Vader's guys. And then she rebels against that. So there's a good 3-act structure with that story, which we tell over the course of 3 episodes, 3 different points in time. That's good. That's what I like in this whole Tales of the thing, which is kind of what we did with Dooku last season. So that's solid to me. I just fear that we seem to only be able to do this with kind of our Sith characters, or at least the Jedi, the Sith characters. So I wonder, if just every season that's only going to be the only good story that we're going to get with these tales of the so and so kind of thing.
Oh,
all right. Okay, let's see. All right, so it's just me going forward. Okay. So the Good Doctor and Young Sheldon both reached their 7th and final seasons. They both wrapped up, and
I have one question for you about the Good Doctor, Dragon.
Yeah.
What exactly is Sean, Dragon? What is his job?
Well, surgeon.
You mean he is a surgeon? He is a surgeon, Dr. Hahn!
You do that a little too well, Tiki.
You know what? I will say, I fully support that meme and think it's hilarious, specifically because, like, I'm actually on board for the idea that we can actually playfully make fun of an autistic character. Like, the humor in that meme is not malicious. It is purely just like, look how ridiculous I'm worth being.
And anyway, so I wanted to talk about
really quick. I was watching this episode, or just a random episode of season 7 with my mom, and I had no idea that Dr. Hahn was still on the show. As you know, Daniel Day Kim, very familiar with him from Lost.
Well, that's not 7.
What?
Yeah, that Dr. Hahn's. No, he's. Oh wait. Daniel Day Kim's not on. It's 7.
Okay, I literally.
Their Dr. Park is like the Asian guy we have there. Daniel Day Kim is only there for like in season 2.
Oh, god damn it. Okay, I asked my mom if that was Dr. Hahn, and she said yes. Dragon Daniel Day Kim could have aged. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm embarrassed now. I'm sorry.
I think you mean Doctor. Did he have long hair?
I don't even remember.
Okay, well,
maybe it was an old episode. I don't know. All I'm saying is I was like, oh, it's him. It's the guy from the meme.
Well, okay, I'm going to dumb this down. Was he being mean to the Good Doctor, Tiki?
Yes, actually. So it could have been Dr.
Yeah,
Hahn.
Sounds like it was Dr.
It was probably a rerun. See, I'm not crazy.
Okay, there you go.
All right.
Okay, anyway, so yeah, I want to talk about these, because I usually don't talk about like the long-running shows, but these reached their final season, so I felt it might be worthwhile, real quick. So Good Doctor, again, I think both of these shows benefited from the strike and the shorter runtime, which I think has been a show, like a lot of these shows have just needed to like kind of go the streaming route in terms of just like a fewer number of episodes so they can really get all the good stuff in there.
Right.
I
will say when I was watching Survivor, they were milking the fuck out of Young Sheldon's finale. Good Sheldon.
There's your Barbenheimer.
Right.
Well, they're both really smart characters, and they have similar.
And on the spectrum.
Well, Sheldon's not technically on the spectrum.
Is it not confirmed? I thought it was.
No, it was never confirmed.
All right, fair enough.
Anyway, so the fact is, it's the last season. It's important. We have to make the episodes count. So with the Good Doctor, the way it kind of ends up is that we see Sean has grown. We end in a really Tiki. We do your favorite thing. There's a time jump. There's a really great time jump. No, seriously, there's a really great time jump at the end of the Good Doctor. I think would maybe bring a tear to the eye. It's really nice. So we leave things off in a good place, apropos to the show's title. Now, in the case of Young Sheldon. So Young Sheldon, again, benefited from the short number of episodes. There's a show that always had an expiration date because we know one of our main characters dies when he's 14. So that's the thing. So there's always an expiration date on the show. The father dies at 14. That was like the bylaw of the Big Bang Theory. That's what we knew there. So it's not a spoiler to tell you that his father dies. What I won't tell you is like,
CBS pretty much told you that, yeah.
Well, still, it's the fact that it's like the when and the response is interesting, and to me, that was like the most shockingly great thing they did in this season is that the way they handled his father's death and specifically the funeral and just kind of the grieving. They dedicated a whole episode to it. And they did an exceptionally good job at putting grief on the screen in a non-hammy way, or they did it honestly. And there's this thing that really hit me in the episode. The only reason I really wanted to talk about young Sheldon was this.
Okay.
Okay, it's just this moment where Sheldon is, because he's essentially he's very into scientists. He's a scientist. He's very into string theory and physics and everything. So basically, he's thinking of essentially the multiverse thing, or at least the alternate outcomes, like alternate realities, where he's thinking of all. And basically, we're processing him rewinding time with these little flashbacks. I'd recommend checking out the clip online if you're never going to watch the show. It's just this moment where Sheldon is he's not a touchy-feely kind of character, so he's internalizing the death of his father, and he's rewinding all the possible outcomes of what he could have said to his father before the last time he saw him. Mm-hmm. And that really hit me. And I was like, man, that they hit that so well. I was really impressed with the show, because it kind of meandered for a bit in the run. The show was never really truly awful or anything. I thought it was stronger in the beginning, but 7 found its way back, man. 7, knowing they only had so much time left and they're wrapping it up, I think they did a good job with it. I think they went out on top. I think they did good.
Nice.
All right, let's see what's left here. So we got so The Bear, seasons 1 and 2.
One. Fucking big one.
So I'm not going to talk a lot about this because we're going to be breaking it down a little bit more intently soon. So very much a Ted Lasso for the kitchen, but less warm and cuddly.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's what I'm getting. Here's the thing, though. I know you're going to say, why compared to...
I mean, profanity is practically an art form in this show.
Well, to be fair, profanity is an art form in Ted Lasso with Roy Kent. So
right. Oh, yeah. The one Ted Lasso related thing I did see Roy Kent was a standout. Yeah.
So that's the thing. So what I'm getting at is that it's very well done. Season 1, that's about processing grief and finding direction. The beef. It's fun Chicago location, Carm. He's got a cross to bear. Let's see. So Richie, Eben Moss. How do you say Eben Moss's last name?
I don't ask me, man. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Well, this is a help, Mister. Oh, you gotta watch the bear.
Yeah, I'm sorry. His last name's hard to pronounce. I know
it's hard to pronounce. You mean to tell me you didn't watch one interview with this guy?
No.
God. Okay, so point being, Richie, great character. I think he's the soul of the place. I love Marcus. I love a lot of these characters. Marcus is the pastry guy. Mm-hmm. He's great. Anyway, so season 1. So season 1 is very much, it's very much the Ted Lasso comparison. Is that season 1 is very much like, it's like change the culture is going to change you kind of thing. And that's essentially what the arc of season 1 is, which reminds me a lot of what Ted Lasso's whole thing was. There only, again, a lot more, Gordon Ramsay-esque. Oliver Platt, he's an MVP. I love him, and John Bernthal is the secret weapon of the show. Clearly, season 2, it's realize Carm's goals. All the food titles are really great with the season titles. The 2 episodes that are my favorites were, Fishes and Forks. Forks is probably my favorite. I love the Forks episode. That was the big Richie in the other kitchen episode.
Oh my God! Oh, that episode is fucking fantastic. Yeah,
well, that's
absolutely.
I think that's
hard to agree. Yeah,
Fishes is good.
You know what? As monumental as Fishes is as an episode, and it is a big deal, and we will definitely talk about it in Christmas in July. I think Fishes is not just a big episode for the bear. I think it's a landmark episode of Christmas television. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be looked up as in the best all-time Christmas episodes. But Forks is such an intimate character study, and I love it. Yeah.
So I love that.
Really,
so Forks is
really great kind of back-to-back episodes right there.
Absolutely. So there's that. I'll admit the only weak part is it really came in season 2, where season 2, Carmi's love life. It's a little. It's not bad, but it's just a little.
Yeah, Dragon. Literally everyone in the Bear fan base thinks that. You are not alone in that.
I do love the extended Berzado family. Family. Sorry. Anyway, okay. So moving on to Icons on Earth. So I've been on a kick with these.
You sure have.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many there, and basically only one subject. I don't want to watch the Fast and Furious ones by proxy, but I've watched.
Really? You
So,
draw the line at family, Dragon. How dare you?
absolutely, family can go. Family can go drive off a short pier.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so Icons on
Or
Earth.
literally drive off of a fucking waterfall like Vin Diesel at the end of the last movie.
Unless he's saying Superman, I don't care.
Oh god.
Anyway, so Icons on Earth Batman. This was great. I loved again. I've loved this series so far, and it's the fact we get
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop you really quick. This is funny because when you had it listed for some reason, I thought that they had done like a combined like Batman is an icon of America who uses gadgets, and James Bond is his UK equivalent. Like, that's literally what I thought it was. I thought it was, like, combining the two of them, and I feel stupid now.
Yeah. Anywho. But, yes, so, again, I just... We have Robert Wool doing the narration. We cover some stuff that he's not really widely talked about, like the Sean Young thing, where it's always kind of like a footnote. We actually get to explore it here. And we learn Sean Young, she kind of irritate people on set. We see you kind of get a sense as to why. So you have that again. Ultimately, there's not a lot of stuff I didn't know about. Particularly with '89. There were some fun little tidbits with Batman Returns. Some fun anecdotes there. Like we have like later on we have like Nolan's crew like talking about him, like how difficult. Again, not difficult in a bad way. We're just like, oh man, Nolan's such a taskmaster, but he gets it done. We learned how they kind of pulled off some of the amazing stunts and everything. We see the Cillian Murphy audition for Batman a little more fully. That's great. Nice. Basically, the great thing in the editing here and like kind of the through line of how they told it is like have Michael Uslan's drive. I love Michael Uslan. I've met the man. I idolize the man. I love him. You got Sean Young in the issues, and we kind of go from the success and failure between Batman Forever to Batman Robin. And then kind of the reboot, essentially kind of the rebirth of it all with Nolan. So, we cover the gambit. I think it's a nice testament to kind of like that era of Batman on film, and it's pretty up to date. It's pretty solid. Bond.
It's like a lot of info I already know,
but it's presented nicely, man.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. So Bond, again, I know very little about Bond, so it was rather informative. It's about kind of like like the kind of behind the scenes of Bond, the studios getting everything in line there. And the most I know about Bond was George Lazenby because of that documentary on Hulu, and Daniel Craig, because I've seen those movies. But they jumped through a lot of hoops to get the cast of Bond and to kind of to make it happen, and just kind of look at the longevity and getting the rights to stuff. And the casino, we covered the whole Casino Royale thing. Where, like there's kind of competing Bond films within the franchise. It's kind of funny. So just again, it's Icons on Earth. I can't say enough nice things about it. Okay. Let's see, I think is it lastly? Yes, lastly.
Yeah.
Ashley Madison, Sex, Lies, and Scandal. I think you'd like this.
The existence of this company, like, kind of fills me with unfiltered rage. So I don't know if I'd be able to handle this one.
Well, I don't know. Why are you getting rage over it?
I'm sorry. Do you know what this company is, Dragon?
I know what this company is. If anything, I should be enraged over. I don't know why you're necessarily. I hate adultery, so I propose. I'm completely. I propose.
Do you think that I'm a fan of adultery? What the fuck?
Well, according to you these days, you don't really care about it, so I don't really.
I don't care. I don't care about being in a relationship.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that. And the reason I don't care about being in a relationship is because of fuckers like this.
Yeah.
That made me super cynical to the entire idea of it.
Yeah, but you're kind of over it, though, so I think you have this.
I am over it, yeah.
So why not? Why would you be angry? Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's an app for adultery and then basically cheating with married people. It's crazy. We learn how this enterprise got up and running, and there was a big hack. And what's really great about this dig is that there's this nice framing. There's kind of this nice kind of thing in the editing where you had this happy-go-lucky influencer couple, and we kind of track like the impending hack and like all the details, like like all the details of all the people who signed up for this coming out. So like there's like a impending dread kind of attached to it, and like how that goes down. But at the end, it's real life. So I don't know. It's interwoven quite nicely in 3 episodes, kind of nice and tightly told. I thought it was pretty good. Might end up being that same old debate of like movie or show, but I don't know. I thought it was pretty good.
Uh-huh. Alrighty. Going back now. Let's do catch up. All right. Yeah, this was a shit month for me as far as new releases, but I have some really good catch up stuff here. So let's get started. Obviously I went to Vegas, so I did do a couple Vegas movies to catch up on. Casino Dragon.
Yeah.
This might be my favorite Scorsese movie.
It's
just
good,
bar
right?
none. Just bar none. Honestly.
How great is the blueberry scene?
Oh man, everything is fantastic. Oh my god, there's so much to say about this one, man. I feel like this one kind of gets lost in the shuffle of Scorsese when it really shouldn't be. I will say Joe Pesci in this movie is fucking terrifying in a way that I did not think I could ever see Joe Pesci be genuinely terrifying. I also love that Joe Pesci has that Okie accent in this movie instead of just like the typical like Italian wise guy. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And that I feel like that makes his performance all the more scary. Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like the movie kind of speaks for itself. It's an epic. It's a crime epic. I love almost everything about it. Yeah, just all around, I'm so glad that I finally got to watch it. Very much looking forward to breaking it down eventually.
Yeah.
All right, Leaving Las Vegas. Have you seen this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this one was definitely solid. Not exactly a movie to watch to get yourself stoked for a Vegas vacation, but
I kept telling you should watch it when you're leaving. Yes.
Oh God. I will say Nicolas Cage, obviously one of his all-time best performances, especially in like the first part of the movie before he even gets to Vegas. Like that opening scene where he's just piling the liquor bottles into his shopping cart. Like, I mean, the dude is just unhinged. I do think that this movie is very much kind of like it did for drinking what Requiem for a Dream did for drugs. And in that respect, it is a little bit of misery porn. Like, I'm not going to lie. A lot of this movie is just like, yeah, these characters certainly lead fucked up, sad, miserable lives. I honestly thought the hotel scene was a little bit of a step too far. The rape scene. That was like, I mean, I get that it's like a big part of her character, but it was a little bit too much. You know what I mean? It's like in a movie where we're already dealing with a lot of like really heavy stuff. That was a little bit of a step too far for me. I didn't think they needed to go that graphic with it. I also thought that the way Nick Cage died, you're going to find me, I don't know if you're going to find this heartless dragon, but I thought it was fucking silly. The dude literally gets fucked to death. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, it's a romantic death. You could look.
Tell me I'm wrong, though. He literally gets fucked to death.
Well, some might call it a romantic death.
As an asexual person, though, I will say I did really, really love the fact that most of their relationship was very much not physical, but still just as intimate. Score for asexual rep as far as I'm concerned. I mean, obviously I know the characters aren't actively meant to be asexual, but it's cool to see romance in movies that aren't primarily driven by sex, Dragon. I'm always looking for shit like that. Overall, not a ton to say about it. Just a really good character piece. Definitely some good Vegas atmosphere throughout. Oh my god, the scene where he flips the fucking table in the casino, I'm like, oh no, oh
Yeah.
bro, oh
No,
god.
you don't flip the table.
Right, yeah,
Like you
yeah.
don't flip it. You especially what Ryan? Did you watch Casino before leaving Las Vegas, or
Yes.
I think so? You know what that hammer does.
Exactly. Yes.
that hammer's not for fixing the table, kids.
I would love to see freaking Joe Pesci's character try to deal with Nicolas Cage's character. I would love to see that crossover, Dragon.
Yeah, he'd be so irritated with them.
Oh, God. Oh, also,
look, it's Mr. Happy.
Just really quick with Casino, I fucking love how Joe Pesci's character, his ultimate fate, was just so darkly poetic, Dragon. So darkly poetic.
Yeah.
All right, anyways. So yeah, that's leaving Las Vegas. Okay. LA Confidential. Now, this is a perfect example of a movie where Kevin Spacey has a pretty meaty part in it, but I don't feel icky watching it because he's not the main character by any means, and his character isn't meant to be like the reason I think American Beauty is as skeezy of a movie as it is, and I will never rewatch it again, is that guy is both kind of a piece of shit and also through the framework of the movie meant to be someone that you're actively rooting for, and fuck that noise. But no, here, have you seen this?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify.
What the hell was what organized that? Yes.
Okay. This was actually my airplane movie on my way back from Vegas, which I actually thought was kind of appropriate, because I'm going from Vegas to California, not to LA, but to California. Also, I needed to watch this movie because obviously I'm in a Danny DeVito kind of like role right now with Always Sunny.
Mm-hmm.
Really love Danny DeVito's performance here.
I have a question.
Okay.
Did you ever see Throwing Mama from the Train?
No.
See, that's the Danny DeVito movie you should watch.
Okay.
But go on.
I really, really love the back and forth dynamic between Guy Pearce and Russell Crowe. And Russell Crowe in this movie, the dude looks like a fucking baby face, and it's crazy, right?
Yep. Yeah, it is.
It's so weird to see that. But I really love that kind of like back and forth, how how they're both kind of in the right and in the wrong on different things that they're doing. I really like how like Guy Pearce's character is so virtuous that he almost has blinders on to other things. That's a very interesting kind of take. I will say that the conspiracy in the movie, I followed it well enough. I do think maybe it's got a little too many moving parts to it. If I was an editor, I would probably trim some of that down. Not a huge deal, but yeah. James Cromwell was a big standout in this, my man. James Cromwell, how he goes from like supportive father figure in the first half to just terrifying monster by the end of the movie. Just magnificent performance there. Absolutely magnificent performance on his end. I think he was probably the performance that really stuck with me the most out of everything here. But yeah, overall, very sprawling movie. I was happy that I was watching it on airplane because I was like, okay, like this is perfect. It's going to eat up exactly as much time as this flight is going to be. And I'm super engaged with it. And there's like multiple plot lines, so I'm not going to get bored with any one thing. Surprisingly good airplane movie. And it's not the type of movie that you would think of for an airplane movie. And yes, I did also watch Unfrosted as an airplane movie. And also like 2 episodes of It's Always Sunny. So yeah. Because, of course, it's unfrosted to not fill up that whole flight.
Oh, yeah, you could watch that Back to the Future thing in retrospect, but,
Oh, you're right. I could have. I forgot about that one. I forgot about
travelogue. It would have been great.
I know. Next time.
So you're ranting about ravioli.
Oh, God. All right. Okay, so Dragon, tell me about All Good Things.
Yeah, so all good things. And Tiki, what I recommend to you is you should watch this, then rewatch The Jinx, then watch season 2 of The Jinx.
Okay.
See, this is the whole thing that started that because the direct Andrew Jarecki, who did did The Jinx, he did this movie which caught the attention of the actual guys. This movie this is essentially it's almost an unofficial biopic because it's heavily inspired by real events. It's inspired by all the stuff that Bob Durst did. And basically turned to a movie, and that's Durst saw, hey, this guy's kind of telling my story. He cast Ryan Gosling as me. I would like to talk with this man more. So yeah, I figured I owe it a watch since it was available, and I'm basically Netflix is cashing on hey, HBO's got the Jinx, we'll have our own Jinx. So this again, it's basically the stories that happens in the Jinx, but a little more Hollywoodized. Ryan Gosling, he basically plays this disturbed individual who's kind of heir to kind of a real estate fortune. Frank Langella plays his father, so we have Frank Langella in this. Nice. He's great. Kristen Dunst, she plays essentially the Catherine character. Basically the missing wife of Robert Durst. And this is it's a well-made little movie. It kind of has an indie vibe to it. Indie vibe with kind of big stars. He's got really good makeup, I think, on Gosling, because we kind of show him as there's a passage of time. We see him kind of as an old man. I think the makeup was, it's practically done, looks good, no de-aging. Again, like I said, I suggest watching this. I wish I had seen this before I saw The Jinx to get the full effect, because I think that would have been a really good viewing experience. Just kind of seeing that and then seeing okay, here's just the explanation of what really happened, the extra stuff that he did. Because again, I think in comparison, it's knowing what happens in The Jinx, you have a lot more details and goes in a little more interesting directions than it does kind of the movie. And the movie is good, but it's very surface level in comparison to the real events. But again, it's good. It's just, again, knowing where we go with The Jinx, I think it maybe kind of softens it a little bit in ways that it shouldn't be. But it's solid. I can't really, it's this character that you don't really get inside of his head, but he's he's a walking conundrum, and that he seemingly loves this woman, but you don't fully know, and he's treating her a little like crap in places, but his father really screwed him up with the death of his mother. So there's stuff there.
Okay, sounds interesting.
Yeah.
All right, next up for me, The Night of the Hunter. Now, this is interesting. This came about because are you familiar with Friendly Space Ninja at all?
No.
Okay, he's a YouTuber. He does a bunch of different videos about why stuff failed. So he did a video about box office flops, and this was one of them. But this was from the 50s, and essentially the idea behind this movie is that it was so scandalous back in the 50s that people pretty much disowned it, and now it's viewed as a huge classic. And I thought it was all right. I do think that this is very much a movie where the first half is a lot more compelling to me than the second half. Essentially, the premise is that we follow this character played by, played by Robert Mitchum. And at the beginning of the movie, he spends a month in jail. I honestly don't even know why. They don't really do a great job of setting that up. And his cellmate is a character who has just killed a man for $10,000. Can you believe that amount of money, Dragon? Holy shit.
$10,000?
Right before he gets arrested, he gives the money to his son to hide, right? Mm-hmm. That's a big crux. So in jail, the dude is kind of stupidly running his mouth to Robert Mitchum hey, I got all this money stashed away, and only my son knows where it is. So essentially, Robert Mitchum comes to the town, disguised as a preacher, woos the mother of this son, who's now, the son is now orphaned, because the dude gets executed. The dude is out of the picture. So, the son is now an orphan. Mother is obviously a widow. He comes in, and this dude, like, the scary part of this movie is this dude is very much just that scary con artist where, like, in front of the people that he needs to charm, he is charming. But in front of the kid who he knows where the money is, he is a guttural piece of shit, and he is not afraid to just be scary and intimidating and smack him around. And that stuff is genuinely chilling. And there's this great kind of cat and mouse dynamic between him and the son. The son trying to get the mother to believe her that this guy's bad. Unfortunately, where the movie falls apart is that there's a big status quo shift in the second half. The son and his little sister go on the run. They end up in this like weird orphanage place. That's like, they're it's not like an orphanage, like proper orphanage, but it's just like a family that takes in runaway children. And so there's this whole complicated plot line that goes on with that. Robert Mitchum is trying to get close to the kids by taking on a child bride, which at that point in the movie, I'm like, nope, I'm sorry. I'm kind of checked out at this point. Unfortunately, Dragon, it commits the sin that we've kind of been talking a lot about tonight. It just gets too overly complicated for its own good. When it was just the cat and mouse stuff between Robert Mitchum and the son, I loved it. But as soon as it gets away from that town and into this whole second plot line with the runaway children, it falls apart really fast. So, yeah, man, it's a shame because I'm telling you, man, if the whole movie had that same sort of intensity that I'm talking about with the cat and mouse stuff, this thing would have been like one of my all-time favorites. But unfortunately, I just can't say that because, yeah, I really think it falls apart in the second half. It's a shame. All right. Corman's role. All right.
Yeah, so this is a little of course with the passing of Roger Corman, I want to learn a little bit more about the guy. So there's this documentary that Stars did, and you can find it on YouTube as well at the moment. Basically, this is like 10 years ago, and it shows you just how impressive, and how it's impressive how respected he was, and he is in Hollywood. Despite the industry like taking forever to actually acknowledge like the guy. That's kind of like what the premise is. Like this guy's done so much for so many people, and the industry won't give him an award. And basically, by the end, we see they finally give him an award. And we see interviews with all sorts of famous people, and they kind of go over like their connecting point with the man. Like Ron Howard, basically he became a director because basically Corman gave him the shot. Scorsese, we have De Niro, we have Dick Miller, we have the big one. I'm surprised they got for an interview. Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson's in this. It was circa like 10 years ago, and he gets a little emotional over Corman too. Like Corman made his career. Jack Nicholson loves success and money and fame. He loves these things, and he gave him these things.
Wow.
He gave him a start. Like, remember, he did the original, Little Shop of Horrors. That was Corman.
Of course, yeah.
So, that was Nicholson's big break. That and Easy Rider, which, he let Nicholson do. And, there's a lot of love and there's a lot of respect for him. It's a guy who just loves movies, just loves the moving picture, and even if it is exploitation movies, but he kept the thing about the exploitation movies, and they kind of show it here, is that these kept the industry going before the big hits happened. Like you had to keep pounding these movies out, and he kept it going.
Well, what's interesting is I kind of feel like although the vibe is very different, I kind of feel the same way about studios like A24 and Neon now. You know what I mean? Like those are the studios that are really pumping out like the original work that is actually going to be memorable down the line and not just these Hollywood products.
Right. All right, anyway, all the same, Corman, just really cool guy, really interesting read. So this was, this was rather informative. I'd recommend it.
All right. All right, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this next one at all. Norwegian Wood. This is based on a Hercule. Oh God, how do I say this dude's first name?
Hercule Poirot?
No, not fucking Hercule.
Well, I don't know what name you're going for. You're talking gibberish. What was it?
Haruki. I'm sorry, Haruki Murakami. It's a Haruki Murakami book. One of the most beloved Japanese authors out there. I read the book for book club. The book certainly has problematic elements to it, but here's the thing about the book. The problematic elements are all tied to a character that on the surface is a good person, but if you really look at the text and if you really consider the fact that this story is being told through the lens of an unreliable narrator, yeah, that character is kind of a monster. And Dragon, we don't get any of that subtext in the book, in the movie, I mean. We don't get any of that subtext. As a matter of fact, the character that I'm talking about is barely even a presence in this movie, which to me takes away the teeth of the whole fucking story. And it goes from like a harrowing coming of age drama with a mentally ill, unreliable narrator protagonist to, yeah, it's a love story. It's a young love story, a tragic love story, but a love story. And I'm like, no, that's not what makes Murakami's work interesting. What makes Murakami's work interesting is very much the shades of gray, very much the elements of this story that they just gloss right over in the movie. So yeah, I was not happy with this movie, Dragon. I really wasn't. It was a dud to end the month on, I'm gonna say, unfortunately. I was gonna watch A Home at the End of the World. Or wait, is that the name of the movie? Now I'm second guessing myself. Hold on. I think so, yeah. Because my sister recommended that movie to me, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna watch Norwegian Wood instead because I want to have an opinion on the movie for the book club. I should have watched Home at the End of the World, man. The cinematography in this movie is pretty good. That's about it. That's really about it. This was a very hollow book adaptation, unfortunately. Just one of those book adaptations where I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, it's technically the same story, but man, you cut out a lot of subtext here. So yeah, definitely kind of fell flat for me. Recommend the book, though. All right, last one for you, Dragon. We've got 5 minutes. Let's keep it under 3 hours.
Great. Okay, Butterfly in the Sky: The Story of the Reading Rainbow. So yeah, you'd love this. You really should, Tiki. If you take away any recommendations I've put to you tonight, this is the one you got to watch. Okay, this is a recent documentary. It's about the Reading Rainbow, the PBS show, and it's very much in the tone of Won't You Be My Neighbor? It's very much that's what they're going for here. It's another beloved PBS PBS thing. It's again, this is what I was kind of alluding to earlier, where it's like the day that Jim Henson, like the week the Jim Henson thing is slated to come out, we get something on the Reading Rainbow coming out. Now, I want to be clear. This is it was like in film festivals and stuff beforehand, so it was out. But it's like they added specifically to Netflix like the week this Jim Henson thing comes out. So it's like we have kind of another beloved nostalgic kind of figure in the PBS fame, via Sesame Street in that case, or via Mr. Rogers. Again, it's a great throwback that's kind of in tandem with kind of our mutual love and appreciation for the Scholastic Book Fair. You have LeVar Burton, it's a love letter to this man who made the show. He's very much the Mr. Rogers of this, who was like still around, and he's like there to talk about it, and how he very much was the beating heart of the show. It's very nostalgic. It's there's this really great story about how the really kind of scary story. Honestly, they shot in this Batcave once, like for one of like the footage segments of the show, and there's this horrific thing where it's like this cave where they have like maggots that are like worms, or so I guess not maggots, like worms that if you drop something, if a bat falls to the ground of a cave, these worms will eat alive in minutes.
Oh my god! Oh, cool.
And these guys had to film in there in these suits, like these hazmat suits, and the guy fell. Okay, so he fell on his face in this in a hazmat suit, but it's like so it's crazy. So
Uh-huh.
there's some fun anecdotes like that in there, but again, it's just I don't know, it's really charming and really worth watching, especially given that our mutual love of Won't You Be My Neighbor. I think you definitely got to watch this.
All right, cool. All right, best and worst, really quick. For me, it's pretty straightforward. Best is definitely Casino, like not even much competition there.
Mm-hmm.
Worst, I'm gonna have to think about a little bit more, just because
Sounds like
I
that one you
just
mentioned just now beforehand.
yeah, probably Norwegian Wood.
Yeah,
It just didn't do a lot for me. Yeah, let's go with that. Sure.
there you go.
All right.
Best for me, there's some contenders. I think I'm gonna the Butterfly in the Sky was a good one, but I think I'm gonna have to give it to Idea Man, Jim Henson. That was really good. I mean, worse. Look, there were like three movies that had weak elements to them, but I feel kind of mean calling them worse because it's like I kind of have to by process of elimination. I guess it's Unfrosted because I know it's not good.
Love it.
But again, it's like it's not aggressively so. It's not terrible. It's just I'm just saying like logically, it's like let me put it this way: I would watch Unfrosted again before I would watch Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes again. I think.
You know what? I might kind of, as much as I've given it shit, I might be with you on that.
Well,
Kingdom
again,
does have a lot of
yeah,
boring moments to it.
that's what I'm saying. At least what I'm saying is Unfrosted is a little more memorable. It's like Kingdom's solidly made, but it's just not. I have all these logic issues with it. Of like, what's the point anymore? Versus
Right.
Unfrosted, I know exactly why this was done. This is kind of absurd that he was able to do this. There's an enjoyment in the absurdity, I guess. Anyway, there you go.
All right. So big thanks to Code Geass, Little Blue, Richard Victims briefly popped in, and then also, of course, Claude. All right.
Yep. After his banishment. Oh, what about Teddy? Did you mention Teddy?
He popped in very quickly for a very brief cameo, but yes.
Good. Okay.
All right. Well, folks, we've waxed on long enough, and it's time to put the pen down. Until next time, when we return with another fitting chapter in our Memoir. Get out of here, Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Take that ravioli.